He's been playing the game since like the start.
He's put in a lot of hours behind the scenes when nobody knew who he was.
The biggest thing that stands out is definitely his aim.
He definitely is like one of the best aimers.
My name is Aiden Mong. My in-game name is Threats. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm 18. I think I'm pretty intelligent, nice, caring, and I have a really big competitive drive. With the merging of the new region, I think our region has changed a lot with the play styles and everything. The NA West people are more aggressive and like, it'll be way different. Even competing in international events, I'm pretty relaxed and I don't really get nervous at all. I said pretty poised. Participating in the FNCS Invitational, it definitely gave me more drive and like definitely wanting to do better. So I definitely want to make the global championship. I think my biggest strength is definitely my aim, but also like my clutch factor, because especially in the end game, I definitely can solo clutch pretty well.
Up on the high ground, Threats, the one-man army.
Your IQ is definitely the most important in a grand finals, but I'd say aim is 30%, IQ is 50, and the mechanics 20. think my biggest weakness is definitely like overheating in the moment. Like if I just like eliminate like 4 people, I might keep on going, but I'm in the process of fixing that. This year, you know, I was pretty devastated about my Major 1 performance. I thought I was definitely gonna get top 3 because, I mean, we had the 2nd best cash out placements the whole season, and we didn't get out of top 10 the whole season, but, you know, I got 15th. Definitely should have done a lot better, but I would say the luck wasn't on my side. Especially this major, I'm gonna put everything I have into the game. A lot of other seasons, I didn't really do the extra steps to be ahead of everyone, but this season, I'm definitely will. The next FNCS, I'm landing somewhere way better than I landed. Definitely like the meta spot, because I'm not playing for like top 15 again. I want to know what it feels like to win the next major.
No shot, cause I'm always in range.
It's getting heated now, as we're about to take on the last round of qualifiers of the NA region. Duos will have to put it all on the line if they hope to stay on the bus to finals, while others are just trying to make it into Surge Week to continue their FNCS run. A team that had a solid start to the year, Thoric and Bolts are now finding themselves in a position where they can skip Surge Week with the right amount of series points. But how will they do when the pressure is on? Knifer and Bylon want to skip Surge Week and go right into Grand Finals. If they have a great showing tonight, it might just push them over the edge to go directly to Grands. Agers and Kanata are in a comfortable position, but haven't guaranteed that Grand Final spot just yet. As one of the regional household names with high expectations from everyone, can this duo keep it together and push for those last few points? NA's last opportunity of series points will be played out tonight. With some of the best teams of the region still fighting for that FNCS dream to stay alive, who will rise and who will fall? We'll find out soon. This is the NA FNCS.
Oh, what's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. Yesterday, we saw Europe take the stage, but now it's all about North America. Some duos are looking to just do everything they can to break into just Surge Week. Others are looking to keep people out of that top 40 going to Grand Finals, while others even are saying, okay, Grand Finals, we got to make sure we put on a good show because we want to stay where we are. Now, there is so many things to discuss here in Major number 2 in North America. My gosh, 6 games await us. And if you guys watched last week, you know that North America's like, Heloffs, no, we like aggression. We like aggro at all times. Now, there's much to discuss, much to focus on, so why don't I introduce your analyst who will help me break it all down. It's none other than somebody's gun, Vivid.
Hey, backflip. Front flip.
Whoa!
Imagine.
I blinked and did you guys do it?
Yeah, you didn't see it?
I blinked. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I'm sorry, I blinked. I'm sorry, I blinked.
Hit the VODs.
I will have to. Guys, welcome to week number 3 here in Major number 2. North America about to take the stage. Yesterday, we watched EU go pretty crazy, and as we've seen in the past, NA likes maybe a little more aggression. How are you guys feeling coming into the competition today?
Listen, it's week number 3, right? This is the last opportunity for any of these teams playing today to gather up the last remaining series points they need to either make it a Surge Week or lock in their Grand Final spot. So the pressure's on for a couple of these duos.
Yeah, and it comes down to the last few games. You know, you got to set yourself up nicely, but these last few games are really going to determine who is going to be playing Surge Week and who's going to Grands.
A lot of pressure is on these duos right now, and as we saw from EU, that pressure really starts to set in, especially as games continue to go on from the day. Now, I think one of the things you guys wanted to highlight for us today is kind of a difference in play style, looking at one duo versus duos paired up. So you guys want to talk us through that?
Yeah, so pretty much the thing that we see a lot, right? We see solo clutches, and then we see some really strong duo performances throughout the end game, and both of those in each position has to think about the game differently. In this instance, we're gonna be looking at Bucky, who is a solo right now, and he's gonna be staggering his rotate. And that's good because he can kind of let all of these teams rotate in front of them, and he's able to look at where they are gonna be positioning. If we take a look at the left side of the screen, he sees all of these builds being placed, and they're kind of gaining their health, right? So he's like, oh wow, there's a lot of teams over there. But Bucky is so smart, and look towards the center of the screen. All of these builds, they're already fully built. So he's like, you know what? There's no way that a team is in there right now. So let me go towards that location because I'm a solo, and I don't really want to fight any of these duos that are already established. Lucky for him, he finds himself in a 50-50 right there and gets a huge refresh. Yet again, he finds himself on the backside of the zone, staggering himself once again. But look how impactful that refresh was. 120 builds. Right now, he's just like, listen, I have to use all of these materials that I just gathered up because I'm almost max. So we're going to see him go through this rotate as well. And again, this stagger allows him to look at all of the teams that are already fighting for some of this pivotal positions throughout these layers. And he's just like, listen, I'm going to choose one where there's no teams around me. And I'm going to full tarp now because I have so many materials to work with. He also makes a storm play at the end here to make sure that he picks up another elimination. 110 solo impact points for Bucky in week number 2 finals.
So, love the solo clutch. Let's also take a look at some duo plays here because teams are doing it both ways. And Trashy and Pump are a team that I'm going to call it boring Fortnite, but that's not a bad thing. It's the right way to play. They're playing hip to hip. They're so fundamentally sound and rarely are making mistakes in endgame. And we see that here, constantly making these rotates. And one thing I found interesting is they're not landing front side of zone. They're kind of landing in that center area and then tarping forward, playing it safer, making sure they're not getting jumped on. And then we see the tarps come through once we start to get to those final few zones. We see Trashy leads the tarp, then Pump's gonna close off the backside of the tarp, and this refresh is actually key to the win in this game. So remember this, they're gonna be able to get this refresh, they're gonna mark that box, and Trashy will come back to that. So as we get towards the final close, we see Pump gonna drop those splashes. Now Trashy's gonna play for the heal off. Pump, on the other hand, he knows he's not playing for the heal off. He's gonna go into zone, pop one slurp, and then decide, I'm going to disrupt the entire lobby and make it as difficult as possible on everyone else, help my teammate out as much as I can. Then Trashy goes back, finds that box, and they're able to get that win. So those refreshes, cerebral understanding of where everything is and the fundamentals, love to see it from that duo.
Yeah, I think as we watch the game today, it'll be pivotal to kind of assess the situation. Like duos like Trashy and Pump, they'll be able to actually fight for those front side positions, whereas the solos who are trying to pick up big points usually try to, play a little bit passive and wait for ideal moments to kind of strike.
I like that. So if we kind of compare both of these duos, how do we see these styles maybe come to fruition today, especially in week 3 when pressure is kind of on for a lot of these duos?
Sometimes you just have duos that are very, very good at staying together. And I think that's kind of the name of the game for Trashy and Pump. But again, I just want to highlight how good Bucky did in week number 2. I mentioned it before, 110 solo points in that week 2 finals. Him and Okus got 216 points total. So Bucky literally solo clutched over half of the points that they actually got last week.
Love to see that. That's so clutch, and we've seen him. But, you can play it both ways.
Yeah.
Bucky clutching it up. Now it's Okus' turn. You can't be letting Bucky tell you this entire time, oh, I did it all last week. So you got to see how this duo plays it this week.
I will say Trashy and Pump, right? We actually have had opportunities to talk to Trashy, not only this season, but last season as well. They're a duo that primarily like to stick together, right? In those kind of solo situations, someone like Bucky can operate, but I feel like for Trashy and Pump, they kind of need to both be active.
Yeah, and their play style, because they play so close together, it's typically not going to lead to those solo clutch moments because when one goes down, they're both going down. They're not going down without a fight, and one another are going to take it together. So that duo synergy, it plays out well for the most part, but at the same time, you get 110 points as a solo. That's a huge bonus. Nonetheless, Trashy Pump, 5 finals qualifiers win streak going into this week. So, I'm expecting them to get a win here today as well.
And they've been popping off this season as well, right? Making every single one of these weekly finals. So shout out to them. I'm excited to see how they do today.
Okay, all right. Well, there's another duo we are very excited to see. Want to come this way. We have an opportunity to talk with one of the players we'll be seeing compete today.
Okay.
It is none other than Thoric coming in strong. Thoric, what's going on, my man? Welcome to the broadcast.
What's up, guys? How are you?
Dude, we are so good. Excited for 6 games of NA. How are you feeling, man? So I know you guys, you have to kind of maybe place right on the top half of the lobby today. Where is your mental at coming into today?
I mean, we're going to do what we always do. We're just going to come through and execute. We put in the work. Hopefully we'll get the results we're looking for,
Okay. And of course, you guys are landing over towards the Slap and Go gas station. There are a lot of big name duos kind of landing around you guys. Has your strategy kind of shifted thinking about that, or you guys just going into it with your own game plan?
We're just going to let the surge come to us, the teams come to us. We're not really intimidated by any names, I'd say, but yeah.
All right, and you guys are landing a spot where Iamzo and Rise have had a lot of success from. Did you hit the VODs, learn from what they've done, now gonna execute on that?
Of course, yeah, they're the greats. I mean, not gonna completely resemble what they do, but it's obviously helpful hitting the VODs and watching what they do, so yeah.
I like it. What about if you guys could go to Grand Finals, what are you guys hoping to bring to Grand Finals that maybe no one else is ready for?
I mean, we're just gonna bring the heat, the firepower. We're gonna do what we can, and yeah, just strategies that we've been crafting, So.
Okay, all right. Now I'm not gonna ask you for those strategies because obviously we want to wait and see those till Grand Finals. Thoric, where can the fans out there find you?
Twitter.com/itsthoric, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck in the games today. We'll catch you later.
Good luck, bro.
Thank you so much.
Now, we'll take a look at the series point leaderboard. So in case you're kind of unfamiliar, this is we're going to take the top 40 from here and go straight to grand finals. 41st down to 90 will play next week in Surge Week. We just talked to Thoric, and look at this. He's in 49th place. So these guys, if they want to make that top 40, this is what I was kind of talking about, they have to probably place right on top half of the lobby. Can we expect that out of this duo today?
You know, I think so. I think the important thing to note here is that this is actually the reigning NA West FNCS champions, right? So it would kind of be an anomaly to not actually have those have them in that grand finals lobby. And the fact that they are such a well-vetted duo with that kind of an accomplishment, I think today this lobby should be pretty easy for them to break into that top half.
Yeah, and he sounds pretty confident going into this, so yeah. I expect them to play well. Not only that, but this is their first finals of the qualifier so far, so they need to kind of start to feel this out as well. It's not just necessarily qualifying, but it's also starting to get a feel for how these lobbies are going to play out, whether it be Surge Week or finals for them, but I expect them to get finals after today.
Okay, and remember, they are a duo that won NA West last season, right?
The last FNCS.
That's right. So these guys are absolutely capable of making that top half. We'll just have to see how these next couple of games go. Another duo to look at is 47th place Nick and Squaddle. Kind of a similar situation, right? They kind of have to place in that top half of the standings today if they do hope to just skip and go straight to grand finals.
Yeah, going to be hoping for that from this duo here today. They are going to be landing north of Slappy Shores over at the Crater Split. So the fact that they are uncontested should, be a big up for them when it comes to actually placing high on that leaderboard.
Definitely, and they're a very fundamentally sound duo. I mean, last season they were even playing in the same room together, so
all right.
Were, a little bit of synergy helps a ton. So I expect to see them just lock it in today. They're a pretty regular grand finalist on NA East, so I expect them to qualify today.
I'd love to see it. One last duo here to toss your way as we kind of come back to the series point leaderboard. Once again, try to place either top 40, go straight to grands, or that top 90 and go into Surge Week. Now, if we have 55th Knifer and Byla, how well do these guys have to perform if they want to go to grands?
So this is a different situation.
Yeah.
These guys are contested off spawn at the Citadel. So this is not like the other two teams that we just watched. Gonna have a nice, easy start to the game. They're gonna have to fight for every single inch they get today. And who knows? They're going against a team that's already made themselves to grand finals, so it's going to be tough for them to try and play this out. If they're able to consistently play end games, Vivid, they're going to be good enough to make those, but off spawn is never easy.
No, it's definitely not, but we do have Byla on this team, previous FNCS champion, so if any of us can clutch up, it's going to be him.
Okay, I love to see it. Now, it is not just us who'll be talking about all things Fortnite. We have two casters. I know you know who they are. It's Jacob PR and Levitt K. And you know what? I want to hear from them. So, gentlemen, come on out here.
I want to be heard from too.
There you go.
All the fans sing.
What'd you say? I can't hear you down there.
Oh my, it's Levitt 2K.
Wow, who said that? That's crazy. Gentlemen, welcome. Here we are in North America. Yesterday, we watched EU take the stage. Now we're going to see NA kind of step up to the plate. How do we feel like things are going to maybe change up, especially with the recent change?
Well, for me, I look at it and I go, EU showed me who the realists are, who the fakers are, who the pretenders are.
Okay.
I'm looking for the same thing here in the NA, right? Who are the teams who really got it down? If you're the likes of Knifer, Byla, off spawn, are you going to do the job? Are you going to fumble at the last hurdle?
I mean, that's the story that we're kind of looking for throughout the day. But I'm excited to kind of see my boys Bolt and Thoric, their first weekly finals over from NA West. You know me, I'm always cheering those guys on. And I think they have to put up a good showing, not only for themselves to get that spot in the grand finals, but just to keep their confidence high.
Confidence will play a big factor in today's game. Remember, this is it. Last opportunity to try and get those last couple of series points. Either Surge Week, skip grand finals, or it is over. But speaking of things that are over, this part's over because guess what? We have games. I know, North America, it is about to be insane. 6 games right here, right now. So buckle up. It's game time.
I got my seat front and center, buckled up on this battle bus and ready to go. This is the NA FNCS Week 3 Finals for teams. Their spot in Surge Week or Grand Finals is on the line.
it's a lot to play for. A lot to play for. I think we've seen so far in these qualifying weeks on all regions across Fortnite that there's been changes, there's been switch-ups, there's been a lot to adapt to. And I think coming into this final week, it's a chance for a bit of stability, a bit of consistency from these teams. Can you find your rhythm as you head towards the back end of the season, the back end of the major? And of course, like we've been highlighting, like we've been bigging up Jacob, all those teams who are just on the outside that have to have a top performance today if there is any chance of their season even continuing.
Yep, and it starts right now. And for a team like Muzz and Dejan, he's already getting tagged up out of the sky. Free search for somebody, but they're going to have a moment here to kind of breathe. Not too many teams correcting and contesting them directly on the spot, just like here, or Widow and Madden. They're looking for their first FNCS Finals appearance, and they go in first against the top dogs of Duke and Edgy. In the blink of an eye, they get taken down, though.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Right, you want to start the game, start the day off doing well off spawn, right? Winning your battles. In the case of Knifer and Byla, they're on their journey to do that. Byla's gone down. Elite has been taken out now by Knifer, and so a chance to res. I think he might just try finish things off. I'm not sure if Dragon will allow Knifer to get the revive off. Either way, Knifer's trying to take the fight right to him.
You can kind of see Dragon's just second-guessing a lot of his decisions. He only has that Havoc suppressed AR, not much to really work with against a player like Byla, who has much more and the materials, but the ODM gear definitely can be a huge tool in the arsenal for a player like Knifer. But you can only imagine Dragon has one as well. He doesn't want to let this res go off. He's breaking through the builds, but he doesn't find the target. A miss a couple of times, and that's going to allow for the res to be secured.
He did not know where it was, and so both of them up. The med kit coming up now from Byla. That'll get him back up to 100 HP. And unfortunately, you know, it looks like they're very much going to be able to play this one out. Dragon is going to just dip out of the situation completely, try regroup, and I'm sure he probably has that reboot card as well. They might not even let that happen. They do spot him, and even with an SMG from that distance, Knifer doing that damage.
Yeah, you got to imagine for Knifer and Byla, instead of going on the hot chase with not much loot to work with. For them, they got their surge very, very early on. Not a ton, but at least it's something to work with.
Well, look, I told you, right? Just a moment ago, I said I want to see who the realists are, who the pretenders are. These guys are not pretenders right now. In game one, they win off spawn, and they have a chance to play out the game. They need to get 19th place to finish to assure themselves a spot in grand finals. And they are well on their way to doing that if they can continue to play this game out. Ooh, what do we have here? Visuals and Braids. Visuals taking down Salco.
Leaving Evo by himself. But I like Visuals and Blades here. They got that first elimination. They're slowing down just a little bit, not getting too antsy. They realize they have more than enough time to work with, especially knowing that you already put down damage onto Evo, so he's really hiding for his life. You see what Braids is thinking with that ODM gear to try to break through the covers, especially Visuals has one as well, so it's only a matter of time before he goes down overall. And Salco and Evo's run comes to an end rather quickly here in game number one.
I don't know, man. There's just always something so comical about seeing people get taken out in the ODM gear like that. We get a replay of how these things began, jumping in there. Visuals uber confident, face straight through that wall and hit the right shots. Well, right back into some action where Fatch and Pamstu are in the midst of a fight. Pamstu's been taken out completely, and so that means Fatch having to pick up. And pick up he will. Disengage is happening, and so we'll give him a chance to get Pamstu back into the game. As you can see in the minimap at the bottom, Frenzy Fields, there are a lot of different players, different teams in this general area. Once Fatch revives and reboots Pamstu, there will be eyes on him.
No strangers to being in this position. Having to reboot, get back into the game, dust themselves off, but they're also one of the players and teams that can actually fight with scraps and work their way up the leaderboard. On over to Naughty Nets, you see Larson and Smite trying to push TK and Ritual off of their loot. Get at least one guaranteed ODM on this side of the map. You get one guaranteed kinetic blade, a lot of mobility, and that seems like it's all on the side of Larson and Smite. Just hovering over there, like a predator hovering over its prey.
Well, yeah, they have the advantage, right, in terms of if Ritual and TK aren't aware, they'll be able to sneak in some early shots if they want to engage in a fight. Larson giving up his position, but it still gives Smite an opportunity to just catch them out if they're not quite expecting him. I don't know if TK sees him, he does now. And a trade that isn't actually favorable for Smite, so the shield kick having to be popped.
Kind of even see the difference from the Cobra DMR to the Red Eye. Hit scan versus time to travel on some of those weapons, as you can kind of see Dragon finally going down. See how that story ended. We saw Liege get lost very, very early on, so his escape didn't last for too long. But talk about teams needing a huge run on the day. Scented and Favs needing a top 12 performance just to get into Surge Week. But you can see they're tied for the most total combined FNCS Grand Finals, 27 of any NA duo. Favs' former teammate Snacky, at least back-to-back FNCS NA West championships from Chapter 3. Looking to kind of regain that composure here today.
Yeah, very last-minute duo, and in their first qualifying week, making it to round 3. But they have such a tough task in their hands. You're asking them to overcome practically the whole lobby if they want any chance of continuing, not just to finals, but even just a Surge Week. Oof. Conclusion to the fight here at Naughty Nets. It's Smite and Larson who will go down to Ritual and TK, and some celebratory dancing to conclude proceedings as well. I think with these Naughty Nets fights, we'll see them all throughout today, where both teams do get a chance to loot up and have sort of an even battle. It's almost no complaints. It's not like other spots where it's very 50-50 in nature. It's about who has the better drop. Both teams will get a chance to fight each other. Even Stevens, Squaddle, and Nick landing towards this northern side, just north of Slappy. This is a duo who needs 36th place there and thereabouts today if they want to qualify for the Grand Finals directly. And Jacob, I certainly think they are a team that is good enough in playing on that stage.
Yeah, for them, it's not necessarily going to be a skill issue. If anything, it's more of like a mental thing. Got to stay composed, have the patience. If things go wrong, you got to realize you can bounce back, especially, EU kind of taught us that yesterday with Tayson and Merstash missing one game and not really looking like it when it comes to the leaderboard. Bucky and Okus. I think today their focus should be on kind of playing as a duo, sticking together. We know they can perform as solos, especially when it comes to Bucky and the amount of solo points he's been able to get throughout the past 2 weeks. Even if they do have their spots secured in the rest of this FNCS, it's about that practice.
Yeah, and look, it's definitely going to be interesting to see throughout the day how the NA teams play it when we look over towards EU and how some of the EU teams who knew they were secured in the finals played things. A lot of it was about conditioning the players in their general area, right? Being overly aggressive just to sort of fight, and fend off against, potential players who are going to be landing around you in the finals, just to let them know, hey, look, we are here, and don't mess with us come final time.
It's another one of those teams. Walk. He's trying to reach his first FNCS final this season, just like Scented and Favs. He too needs a top 12 finish on the day, and already faced with some adversity. His teammate already went down, going from one duo to the next, one spot to the other, just trying to survive here, trying to put up some points. Don't put themselves and start to dig themselves into a hole early on in game number 1. And that's why this game is so important. It's setting the tempo, setting the pace for you and your team on the rest of the day.
If you're Edward and User here, they have to rotate down towards the south off of this mountain. But there are players and teams that will be waiting for them in the zone towards Brutal Bastion once they get there.
Zone does kind of pull towards the south for a team that kind of lands towards that split drop. Metal is going to be a scarcity, so you can kind of see they're going to rotate towards Lonely Labs, pick up whatever scraps they can, and continue on moving. But from one team that's looking to pick up scraps to a team that just found a gold mine in terms of the weapons cache, Polarized and NPen have almost been a staple here for this season, performing at an elite level. And they're just looking to continue that, continue to build the confidence overall, and that's why you see them pushing up onto the first team that they see. Already trying to take control of those pieces. That's Noxy and Stacky trying to fight back against NPen, who's just going for these pieces and just backing down his opponent, taking away all the room that they previously had to work with.
Yeah, slowly looking to try to find control, but their opponents are swiftly looking to get out and not able to connect with any shots there. That would have been huge, not just for setting the tempo of the fight, but just for dealing damage and surge now, right? A lot of the time, these players are looking to try to get their surge dealt with as early as possible into the game. You're talking second, third zone. So all the damage dealt now is very, very crucial. Epic Well and Reeks sitting here on top of one of the mega city buildings. And just putting Surge how you typically expect these teams to play it. The one good thing I'd say about them and their positioning right now is that they won the vote, right? And so they have that loot, the mythic shotguns in the hands of Epic Well, certainly powerful, especially in the hands of Reet. When it comes time for endgame pop-offs, will be something to be very excited about as we move throughout these games.
Yeah, if they had any problems when it came to last week, it was just managing that storm surge. You can see, following that similar blueprint, that similar strategy that they used last week, just find one of the tallest buildings towards Mega City, build that tower in the sky, and kind of go from there. Epic Well and Reek don't necessarily need that big performance on the day, just kind of standard when it comes to them as Fatch is down. Babs finding himself a gold mine here.
Nicely finished up. Adding Fatch to their tally, which is, again, going to be so important for this team. This is a team that has all to play for. They have to do better than practically everybody else in the lobby. And to give us an update on how their game has been going so far, we have Mini Miner here on the sidelines to fill us in.
Thank you, Levin. Now, as you mentioned, Scented and Favs, they need about a 12th place finish today to guarantee themselves into Surge Week, and it couldn't have got off to any better of a start. Of course, as we just saw, they picked up those mythic Havoc pump shotguns from this vault, not to mention, of course, those legendary slurp juices as well that they can gather from this vault. And of course, they can actually rotate themselves into the zone a little bit earlier here, using this kinetic or rock to get themselves into the center of the zone. And as we just saw, it got them an elimination. So let's see if they can do better.
So it's good to see those rocks get some PT, some play time. I'm not too good at maneuvering them with myself, but of course those guys are much better than me. And like Mini sort of highlighted, with what they have available to them by way of loot, look, loot doesn't directly translate to success in the lobby, but they definitely are giving themselves the best odds of doing so, right? They have the firepower with the shotguns, and the mythic slurps will contribute to situations where they need to heal off later down the line.
You can kind of see what just kind of went on, transpired in front of us. If anybody didn't really notice, Muzz and Degen, they were the team that got pushed out of Shattered Slabs, while Scented and Favs got all that vault loot. But they wanted something. They went up to Rift Island to go for the overclock pulse rifles. Scented and Favs were down below looking to challenge it, and they decided against it because they don't want to get too greedy. You can see the kind of mind games playing out between some of these teams, and same thing could be said for Commandment and Macwood here.
Well, the thing about Scented, right, is that he was landing towards a racetrack all season long. And coming into today, I think the question was, would he do that again? The problem was, Canada and Ages are landing there now, right? And so, would you try and fight the mighty Canada and Ages off spawn in a week where you have to do as good as possible in every single game if you even want a chance to possibly play in Surge Week? I think the answer for Scented was no thank you. And so, opting to move away from that spot completely. And again, just another example of just their more risk-averse nature to today's games. They don't want to be leaving themselves open to any possible mistakes. Lugo and Frets, one of the teams I have as the favorites to take things when it comes time for grand finals this major. And for good reason. If you know anything about Booga, you know his pedigree. Frets as well, a very, very top player in the region. Renowned for his amazing aim. And they've been on a roll so far.
Especially for Threats. Kind of heard him in some of those content pieces leading up to the show after last season. This is like a redemption arc for him, especially with how well him and Quanti were playing in the preseason when they were former teammates. But over on towards Season Tragics. Typically land over towards Brutal Bastion. Their main goal when it landing on over that side of things is just get as much surge as possible. They have mobility kind of built in due to those static launch pads. They just got to be one of the first teams to try to put themselves in the best spot. Being 750 above the damage threshold, you got to imagine they'd put themselves just right.
The problem is, right, Cease doesn't have any movement there, right? So in terms of getting ahead of teams to get to zone, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to actually even do that in any sense.
You can kind of already see that Sid and Minish need that top 17. Not as hard as some, but definitely more difficult than others. And we'll see what they had kind of planned up in their mind, boxed up right next to another team. 340 above the damage threshold when it does come to Storm Surge, which puts you in a comfortable spot for now. But knowing how active this lobby can get, it's always going to be something looming in the back of your mind as we jump on board Cooper and Miro. Already trying to take advantage of one team. They have the high ground, ODM gear, trying to break into the box rather quickly, take advantage of the separation and the health lead that he has. But the longer this one takes, the more difficult it's going to be as the zone continues to kind of converge, everybody closer and closer together. Cooper just giving Miro enough time to kind of heal up, put himself in a better spot before they try to attack yet again with that ODM gear, making it hard. You can see him trying to space himself out. No free shots to kind of return. I think they're playing this one really patiently, rightfully so. Well-played shot like that almost took down Miro.
Yeah, and you see, right, of course, we know how powerful the ODM gear is, but there's always going to be an intention there from the duo to make sure while the one person is trying to smash their way through with the ODM, the other one, in that case being Miro, ready with their shotgun out to actually connect once the builds break. And a nicely executed fight there. And of course, you know when Miro gets a chance, he's always going to hit that shot. Ziki and Maniac. Barely above on Surge right now.
At least he has one elimination. Just like you said, barely above. You can see why. Walk kind of been jumping all over the map as a solo. He didn't have 100 HP, didn't have 100 shields, so even though they did pick up the elimination, added 2 points to their total, it barely scratched the surface when it came to Storm Surge, and that's why you see T-Church trying to do the same thing along with Ducky. They're trying to sneak up on an NPen and Polarize. ODM gear to try to break through the build, try to displace him in a well-placed shot. That one's going to be missed. T-Church not going to give up, though, but Polarize and NPen know this one's coming, and that's going to be the backfire, turning and burning, taking him down, leaving Ducky by himself. I think he was able to at least find one onto NPen, so it's going to be a trade.
So hard for T-Church there, right? In the box, left-hand peek just wasn't the favorite one. He hit his shot onto Polarize, but Polarize just had the much better angle. And when he eventually even takes T-Church out, T-Church can barely see him on his screen.
This is just one of those decisions. Ducky putting himself in the spot, all the loot, all the builds gone over to Polaroids that on the low ground. So it's almost one of those situations to where it's a lose-lose. You continue on this game the way you are now. You're in shambles. You're going to have to find a refresh regardless. You continue to fight Polarize. Put yourself behind the line, but Polarize realizing what's at play here. I can't go for that reboot. I can't get my teammate back, so I have to continue this one on as a solo and put myself in the best spot to win this game.
Taking a look at where Peter Bot and Quanti are positioned. Right in between that next zone, the 7th zone, and the congestion of this lobby. You see perfectly seated here where they can just take shots at all of these players, and that's actually Scented that gets dropped down. Scented that's getting knocked, stuck on the congested side of the zone. And Peter Bot and Quanti punishing them for it.
It's not what you want to have happen when you need a big day, but for Scented and Favs, it's all about that mental game with a lot of the teams here in the lobby, being able to pick yourself back up when things go wrong. Drokane and Vert, they were able to find at least one elimination. You see them claiming all that loot towards the low ground as the zone begins to pull. I wouldn't say it's the farthest pull in the lobby, but they definitely got themselves a journey that they're going to have to overcome. And quickly they're trying to tackle that as they ODM whiz past so many other teams who have to make that same trip.
Yeah, and you can see the timing of it, right? Relatively early compared to some of the other teams, and they just won't stop. Nobody really in a position to take shots at them or really punish them for it. And they can get into zone here and start getting to work on getting their surge higher and higher. They see a team based up right next to them, and they want to deal damage.
Right on Nick. Even though they're being a little bit more patient, they still got so much damage to cover here when it comes to Storm Surge. They target out 2 different teams towards the backside. With Macwood and Kanata being victorious in that battle, that's still 2 less players to look after, and that's where you see Squad building up. Doesn't like where he's positioned. Continues to spot out Commandment. Another couple of shots going to be hit. They put themselves into a hole, and now they become a target. Luckily for them, Storm Surge is going to turn off for now. So even though they were barely above it last time we saw, they still have some more work to do.
Yeah, and the thing is, Squaddle there, he was aware that there were teams behind him that could shoot him. That's why he built up and built to protect his back in the top. Still ended up getting caught out anyway, but we'll see whether or not those extra ticks come back to haunt him. Of course, the heal-offs don't typically last as long nowadays, but if it does come down to it, and those extra ticks were the difference between Storm Sickness taking him out, I'm sure he'll regret it. Byler and Knifer, we watched them to start this game off winning off spawn. They've added a couple eliminations in their tally since then, and they definitely have the right setup to be able to do well in this game. Those kinetic blades will allow them to make those right rotations. It's all about getting the timing right as they move towards the next zone.
And this is going to be tough for any team that doesn't have their timing down. There's so many teams stacked up on that side of the zone that they're going to have to go above and over or through the madness altogether. Bucky and Okus, they make their rotation rather quickly, like we're seeing a lot of teams do very, very early on in this lobby. They're just looking around, even though they don't need Surge either. They just want to see and get all the information of where the players are positioned at.
Yeah, they don't need Surge, but Bucky's still going to be looking very much on the offensive because they need a refresh. The mats aren't looking too strong. And speaking of mats, Hayden, it was very much Risk Hound was here. He'd have a lot more to work with. The ones he will have, they'll put to good use. Looking to just sort of base up here, trying to get a higher elevation, get more vision, get more line of sight. Looking at that wood, it's vulnerable. Can I catch anyone out there? Can I catch up the height team? It's Dejan and Muzz up there. Are they going to over-peak? Are they going to give me an angle?
It's going to be their time to try to hold on to it for as long as they can. They definitely have the arsenal to do it as well. Builds, 2 legendary Slurp juices, the overclock pulse rifles to terrorize everybody on the low ground, and that was just a sample.
And if you're any of the teams rotating beneath them, you have to have heard that pulse rifle up on height. You have to be very careful about the way you use your kinetic blades, the way you use your ODM gear. If you use your kinetic blade in a straight line, you are going to get beamed by Muzz. It is an inevitability. Aiden, trying to jump into boxes, needs to be careful down here in this metal box. Gonna get the time to heal. And right back on the offensive for him. He'll try and find anybody he can catch out.
Cooper caught themselves out of position as he gets dropped in the blink of an eye. Cooper's stuck by himself. He at least has a couple minutes to get the shields back, but it comes to an end regardless. Peterbot and Quanti, they find themselves at 2 eliminations, but still struggling to find the damage when it comes to Storm Surge. Barely above 40, but they're experts in their own mind. They know when and where to try to peek, to try to get the shots.
You saw them looking up at height. Dejan and Muzz aren't really pressuring them. And so we might see them make a play for it at some point. We know they like to play at times. They did it so well in the first qualifying week.
Even though they're inside of the bubble, they don't want to fall out. Meeting Epic well, trying to go to the front side of the zone. Very, very similar to the way Knifer and Bylar are playing. But they're going to have to look back here eventually. They're running out of resources, running out of builds and time as well, as Quanti and Peterbot were able to find an elimination and a refresh of their own.
What a find. Upgrade on the shotgun. Slurp juice as well added. Byler and Knifer getting to work now. We know they needed a refresh and they find it. Unfortunately, it's not going to be one as fruitful as the one Peterbot got. And so they're still now going to be hustling and busting through the zone, but getting taken out in the backside. Knifer down to just 13 HP and a bit of time to get the minis off, but you've got to think, how much is it really going to do for him?
That's Muzz and Dejan again from the high ground. The damage from those overclock pulse rifles, but as we tune in, Peterbot going to be the one contesting it. We know Dejan just went down. Muzz trying to make a rogue play, but he gets swatted out of the sky by Peterbot, and the high ground has just changed hands at the perfect time. The last time we even seen this team in a finals lobby, they were taken over then too.
Peterbot is an absolute machine. What a shot that was. Can Knifer hit anything off that lag? Dancing, dodging, weaving, and hitting down threats. Man City threats is down. That leaves Booga all alone. But for Knifer, the implications of that are huge. It gives him a couple more extra seconds, minutes maybe, even in this game. Can he stay alive? Enough mats just to block his back. Can he hit the shot to Poyo now? No. Eventually gets taken out.
Huge elimination from Poyo, trying to continue, and a siphon to keep him alive as Booga's looking for the same thing. Luckily for him, he has very little mats to work with, so he can at least shield some of the damage getting tossed his way. Quanti and Peterbot not taking that elimination in the high ground takeover lightly as they continue to put pressure down on everybody below. Booga trying to box himself up, running out of builds, running out of time as he finds somebody, hears them in front. He's looking for him, Levin. He's looking for him right now to pick up the elimination.
Booga, just one build remaining. It's gonna come down to something heroic with the shotgun, but Epic, well, stops it from happening. And he's gonna keep on looking for more. Down on low ground, so many teams above him. Gonna move up, but there is a team on this layer, just on the other side of this wall if he's not careful.
This is big for Epic. Well, we've seen them pick up the first victory last week as well in game number 1 to set the pace and the tempo. Trying to do it here, but it's Squaddle and Nick who need that big day. They need that top finish overall. They get stuck. They get smushed towards the low ground, forced to use the slurp juice maybe a little bit earlier than they hoped as Trashy gets dropped down at the right time to find that elimination. Him and Pump, they have to look for Peterbot. They spot him towards the high ground, but they go ahead and drop on the Squaddle at the perfect time, leaving Nick by himself. This is a full solo finish.
He's running into the zone. He wanted to see if there was anything on the flag, but there's nothing there for him. It's Quanti up above everybody else, and he has the slurp juice. He has some splashes to work with, and he's going to look for even more. Pump has found a medkit. Will he be able to get off in time? It looks like he will. He's going to pop it. 100 HP now. Quanti with the med miss and some chug splashes up against him, but Pump is slowly running out, desperately searching for anything else. His slap juice will give him a couple seconds extra, but it isn't going to be enough to take down Quanti.
They looked like they had every single heal in the game, and they did exactly what they did the last time we saw them in week number 1 finals. They took over very early on. They set the pace. They built themselves such a lead. It was very hard for any of these teams to catch up.
This is a very scary duo. I called it out in the first to second moving zone transition. Peterbot and Quanti, they were looking up at height, and DJ and Muzz, as good as they are, they weren't doing a good enough job of pressuring them, and you saw right there, Peterbot looks up, sees an opportunity to chop out height, and when they chopped it, there was no going back from there. You know these guys are going to go up there, hit big shots, and Peterbot dropping down now, making sure nobody else had a chance to heal off. What a game that is from them. Textbook stuff from a duo that many people will expect to go on to the grand finals and potentially win the whole thing.
And that right there, that elimination from Peterbot at the tail end, you could see him eyeing his opponents, watching as Trashy and Pump drop down low into their opponent's hands. And as soon as that fight started, that's when Peterbot began to get active and kind of took over the rest of that game. But with game number 1 done, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it over to Zeke and Analyst to show us what the leaderboard is already looking like.
Thank you so much, Jacob PR. 11-2K. Game 1 here from NA goes over to Peterbot, of course, and Quanti. These guys are already locked in. They're going to grand finals. Now it's about practice and gatekeeping every other duo, saying, hold on, you want points? No. You're going to have to go through us, and that's going to be a no.
I mean, this win, there were so many layers of awareness that this duo had to have to actually make that win happen. First of all, you know, on the back foot of that refresh that they found in the mid ground right there, that was like the key moment where they were like, all right, now we have enough materials to contest the higher ground. More awareness right here out of Peterbot, sees that Degen is actually using the ODM gear. Make sure he fires that shot in so that cancels that animation. Fall damage is the demise of Degen in that case.
Dude, I could watch Peterbot highlights all day. the way this kid plays is unbelievable, and just on a regular basis, like throws a clip out here for us, and it's awesome to watch. And then, you know, Quanti, got to show him some love. He clutches up the win too, make sure he gets his own. So a little bit of great team play by a duo that, I mean, we expect to be one of the best in the region.
That's right. Let's take a look at our standings. How are they shaping up after game number 1? Remember, this is just game 1. It's fine. 5 more to go. But of course, Peterbot, Quanti, they will find themselves in that number 1 spot with the victory royale and the 6 eliminations. A duo, though, I think I'm very excited to see more of is Reet and Epic Well. And we saw in that last game, Epic Well even shutting down the likes of Booga, left as well as a solo. I have very high expectations for this duo.
They're just finding so many eliminations, right? I mean, this is what Reet is known for, but actually, this game, it was the case of Epic Whale finding even more eliminations, him ending on 6 eliminations, giving them a total of 9 just in that first game. It's gonna boost him up to that second place spot, but I mean, look how fluid Epic Whale is. I can't even see what's going on the screen. He's making edits so fast.
Yeah, well, and they're showing off the power. There's a reason why you land Mega City and try and play for the vault, and they show us that, right? That POIs are so important, and then understanding how to play to those strengths. These two are a perfect example.
A duel we talked about at the beginning of the show here in seventh place, Knifer and Byla. We know they're a lock for Surge Week, but they want to go ahead and bypass that entirely. They need to have a very good, strong showing today if they want to do that.
Game 1. They won off spawn game 1. They got 5 more. There's a lot of work still to be done, but I mean, to see what Knifer did once Bylo went down here, granted, Bylo does a good bit himself, but Knifer, those solo impact points we talked about at the top of the show, you mentioned it, Vivid. Yep. Bucky did this last week. Knifer trying to do his best Bucky impression right here.
Yeah, remember, they need to get around top 20 to make sure they make it into the grand finals. Of course, that off-spawn situation going to be troublesome going into the next couple of games, but a win in game number 1, it's looking good.
Let's take a look at our top 20. Who is currently sitting in these top 20 spots? Remember, at the end of the day, we want to place as high as possible to put those points on the series point leaderboard. Bucky and Oka's a duel we focused on in the beginning of the show, currently in 17th place. I feel like maybe that's a little lower than I would have anticipated coming out of game number 1. Am I missing something?
I was just say let Bucky cook, right? He hasn't really gotten into that solo flow yet, right? We saw what he can do in week number 2. Of course, I'm looking towards Cooper and Mira. I think an underrated duo actually this season. We saw some mid-game fights from this duo, which I think is holding them back a little bit right now. Of course, they can win those fights, but afterwards, the rotations, they're tough.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the team that is in 4th place. We saw Nyx and Swaddle take a solid game right there, and they're one of the teams that we should be watching and looking for the entire day. They need like a top 15 or so in order to make it to Grands, and these two showing they came ready to play here in game number 1.
Let's make sure that we take a look at the position right here, right? Playing on the backside of zone, looking for these eliminations there. That play style can be very, very good in these lobbies, especially with these new zone changes. Coming into that 12 zone, a lot of these duos don't have a lot of materials, so finding those fights when you already have builds placed on the backside of zone gives you a big advantage to find some of those refreshes.
For sure. How are we feeling about, we had this kind of dialogue, solo versus duo right now. Feels like a lot of these solos in NA specifically are actually making impact plays.
Zeke, that game was actually crazy, right? Because the last 6 people alive, there was 3 duos. It was a 2v2v2, which I feel like we just haven't even seen this season.
No, it's been like solo clutch after solo clutch, or just one duo running through everybody. So it's really cool to see things starting to change. People getting more and more comfortable with their play style in the lobbies.
Okay, all right. So remember, that was just game number 1. 5 more games like this. Now, this game, we did go to a heal-off. Do we foresee more of that from NA?
Yes, no.
Yes, no.
Yeah, yes, no. It's not going to be as detrimental, right? There's definitely going to be some seconds that you're going to gain from some of those heal-offs, but it's not. It's going to be those like 1v1 situations where you're scurrying around the map, going to the control points, trying to find med mists and such.
Okay, I love to see it. Well, hey, that was just the first of 5 games more to see, so what are we waiting for? Let's jump back into all the action. I know you want to see more games. I do too, so find us in the bus. It's game time.
With every game, we get closer and closer to a chance at playing Surge Week. But for many of these teams, you still have to get the points on the board to be able to make it to that round. And Jacob, after what we saw in game 1, I think we are well on our way to seeing some of these teams continue in the path they have already set.
Yeah, I like the tone that Knifer and Byla already set here in that first game, winning off the spawn, even clutching up some big solo points, but can they continue that pace? The game number 1, there's still 5 left on the day.
Look, but if you've played Fortnite before, you know off-spawn battles, they're here, they're there. I land in a game, I might win one game, I might go the next and I get taken out. Can these guys have consistency off-spawn, especially when they're up against such a top team?
Yep. We're not going to have to wait long to find out what teams are going to win off spawn, what teams might get pushed out of their spot overall, particularly over here towards Naughty Nets. It's a fight that we saw go down very, very early on with one team getting pushed down to the side. Larson and Smite, looks like they're trying to take that whole north side of Naughty Nets to themselves.
Yeah, you can see, right? The benefit, right, of a spot as big as Naughty Nets is that even if you do get out dropped, you can sort of just go either way like we saw TK do. It's not about necessarily who wins the 50-50 landing spot. It's more so about who actually wins the fight once it breaks out and once both teams have had a chance to loot up. And already a decent situation there for Larson where he's got a couple shields, kinetic blades. This is a bit more fun to watch though, right here at the Citadel. Knifer and Byler landing towards the top, out-dropping Dragon and Elige. We saw them win this fight off spawn in game 1. Can they do it again here? Ooh.
Already you can kind of see them just taking the majority of the loot. Dragon and Elige forced to kind of look for scraps, but the ODM gear off spawn. We've seen how dangerous that can be if you end up in a close exchange. Yuz and Chris going against Punisher and Costa at this spot. Punisher and Costa need the miracle win on the day to secure their spot past Surge Week. Yuz is taking a lot of damage. Punisher over the top is dealing it. He's going to be the tip of the spear.
Oh, that's tough, though. Look at what Punisher's working with. It's just a blue pistol. And, I mean, he already hit a couple of nice shots, but he's going to need to hit a lot more. And the thing is, getting this medikit off is great for him. It gets him back up to 100 HP, but they may just get the res off in time. There's probably only a couple seconds in it. Can he stop it? Can he hold on? Both of them. Actually, no, he did stop it, but it's not going to matter. Chris will pick him up.
Punisher just didn't have the build to defend himself, and from the highest part of the Citadel to the lowest part, one player is already down. Byler and Knifa trying to keep their distance. They don't want to give up any easy shots and continues to build up, and that is going to be the strategy that wins overall. Elige is going to get dropped along with Dragon.
Yeah, and I like that. Really nicely done from Byler there. Didn't lose any sort of composure at all, even with the situation, right? He's getting ODM'd, but he's still connecting with the shots, and there's a player underneath his ramp. Doesn't get scared, doesn't panic, doesn't whiff. Hits the shot he needs to hit. And that's gonna go a long way. 2 games in a row now where they've won, and if you're a Legion Dragon, that gets into your mental, right? I'm not sure if we'll get the chance to see it depending on how he does off spawn, but Dragon right now, where he's playing, like his setup, I got a sneak peek at his camera. He's got like a bunch of people like watching. I don't know where he's playing. He's like playing in public or something.
Real life watch party.
Yeah, and like if you're there and you've got all these people watching you and you've gone down off spawn twice, that's gonna start to affect you mentally, right? You're gonna start to feel that pressure. So very, very good signs for Knifer and Byler.
Especially when it was Dragon who was actually being the aggressor.
Exactly. And the key now that they've won that fight is that you have to play out the game and have another good game, because you're not certain of how many more games you'll get to play out. For Pamsu and Thatch, we saw them over at Frenzy, not necessarily doing too hot in this fight in game 1. A chance at a do-over here in game 2. But Wok is just gonna make it so tough. That angle is so awkward to fight against when he's up right beneath the wall. They can barely see him. He hits a massive shot, and that's Thatch that goes down.
This is the second time. They kind of traded. They went their separate ways. But as Pamps, who went down first last time, now it's his job to try to be the hero in a 1v2 situation with Wok, Kinetic Blades trying to steal away the high ground, attack by the Iron Tot, especially before third parties begin to kind of set in. You see on the mini-map, somebody's at least looking their direction as Wok and Straw just kind of trap him, give him no options, and they end the fight quickly because now they became the third party. But with the fight ending, they're able to kind of put up the box, defend themselves, and let the team know there's no shots to be taken here.
And these guys have to finish in the top 12 by the end of today's 6 games if they want to advance to Surge Week. So that is a huge fight for them to win. And if Watt can keep hitting shots like the 2 he's just hit, they are well on their way to playing in that Surge Week, because he right now is feeling it. Some big pumps being connected.
Especially taking out players like Pamsu and Thatch. We already have a first place through FNCS Majors week 1 and 2. It's Edward and User. landing towards the outside, scrapping together as much loot as possible. This is kind of the same rotation we've seen them make last game. They tried to build and climb up the side of the mountain, give themselves elevation, survey how many players around. But the difference is from last game where the zone was pulling towards the south, this time it's pulling towards the north. So they're going to find the struggles rotating over towards Lonely Labs or any of those places to really gather the material that they're looking for.
Well, let's not speak too soon. Zone still very much could pull downwards towards the south, right? It is still very, very possible. We'll wait and see. I'm sure they'll be having their fingers crossed, right? Hoping they can stay in that Lonely Labs area so they don't have to rotate down south. Empen and Polarized, though, you see them here just playing very sneaky. Like this is often what you see from teams that land in these sort of areas of the map on the outskirts, trying to make plays like this one, and no, not connecting with the shot. Empen, you've got to hit that. It's a massive one. Will he get a do-over, though? Will he get a second try at it? It does seem that way. Polarized has now jumped into the action to help out. But you've got to think, if you could have just hit a nice little one pump there, a big headshot that could have done wonders for them in this fight.
Ended it before it even started. But instead, now third parties poking some shots in. 60 shield being taken off of Empen, and it wasn't even the people directly in. Polarized getting tagged up as well. Noxy and Stack, you hear it all coming. They're going to ODM, cause some destruction, try to land some shots through the builds. You're not going to find some success, but if you don't concede, you try again. Empen's going to get knocked. Noxy and Stacky just taking advantage of the little bit of damage that third party put in, and before he can even escape, Empen just gets taken out from the sky.
Oh man, Polarized there. Falls to his doom. His loot. It's sort of falling out of the sky like it's a pinata. But look at this, man. Empen will be having dreams about this one again and again and again. That tree breaking could have been the opportunity, but no, couldn't quite get through that wall into the box. And you can see there a bit of frustration and understandably. To be fair, he's a good sport. He giggles away. I'm sure he knows just how good of an opportunity that almost was for them. But I'm sure they will be back next game. And to be fair, even if they didn't quite show it there, they are one of the better teams in the lobby, a team that we do look at and go, we expect to see you in every single end game popping off.
They already have their golden ticket, so for them, just like we've been talking about, they're just conditioning everybody else that lands near their drop, trying to push them away. Pump and Trashy, same thing for them. One of the teams that's qualified for every single one of our weekly finals. And this season, they are setting the pace for themselves. Each and every single one of these FNCS majors, they've just been progressively getting better.
Yeah, and the SPG called it boring Fortnite at the start of the show, and we saw that in that last endgame, right? They were hit by hit, side to side, in each other's boxes, and it pays off, right? They make it deep into games. And even if there are some things I'd like to see them brush up on in terms of just how efficient they are with their materials at times in moving zones, they are currently performing at a level much higher to that of everybody else in the lobby. And that alone is going to do them wonders when it comes grand final time. This is just another opportunity for them to get some practice.
And you can kind of see, just like Levin said, don't count the zone out too quick. We did get a little bit of a southern shift, which kind of opens up that bottom half of the lobby to not be as congested as it typically would, spreading it around for kind of everybody to get their position in zone, which means finding that storm surge might be a little bit more difficult. But for Bylon Knifer, they're able to find it quite nicely. It's going to be in a box fight as they take down a full team.
Yeah, that's nice. They obviously were able to get the combat cash as well after that. And they got it pretty fast. And of course, the metal and the slurps that you get out of those are typically the highest commodity, right? The thing you want the most out of those caches. And of course, the weapon upgrades aren't too bad either, but when you're centered in fabs with mythic shotguns, there's not really much you can do to upgrade on those. It's about as good as it gets. Aiden and Hound here in the zone, not putting in their favor, but focus on that after. Right now, they want to win this fight, and win this fight they just may, because Aiden has hit 2 nice pumps that will get victory in this one, and only 1 elim added to the tally, but again, there's something to work with.
Nick's gonna have to put up a monster performance. He also needs a big day and to qualify overall, so a lot of pressure coming into this game for him to try to perform. And he's gonna have to be patient by himself to figure out what he's gonna do. On the other side, a team that doesn't necessarily need a monster performance. It's about trying to get practice at the drop spot they just recently have taken over, Kanata Nagers. They just needed almost essentially not coming last.
The problem with Kanata and Ages, I think, is that they probably would have wanted Sentin and Favs to contest them, right? They probably want the off-spawn practice because, yeah, their spot in the finals is somewhat secure, right? If they want to make it to the grand finals, they have to get around top 40 today.
Yeah.
And for a team this good, that basically just means play one game, you think, right? Like, play one game and you're near about good enough to accomplish what you need to accomplish. Kanata obviously based up there, going to be looking for some surge. But Aegis farms up a bit more. But they are a team that I think very much will play with a bit more freedom today in how they approach the game, just because I'm sure they'll feel rather comfortable. We know how confident Kanata is. We've interviewed him a couple times, and I will tell you, there are not many people who back themselves as much as he does in competitive Fortnite.
I say that, I was about to say I'm impressed by Poyo and Keyboard. I don't think very many people had them high on their expectation list coming into this season, but they're among one of the few teams to kind of make every single weekly final, so they're definitely on my book and notes to kind of watch out for as we kind of progress into the season. As Braids and Visuals, they won off spawn. They're trying to continue it and get even better loot than they have now, which is surprising. They already have multiple legendary variations. They have the ODM, 6 Splash, the Slurp Juice. They're just trying to get those overclock pulse rifles to kind of set the rest of their game up. But they're going to be contested by Fears and Quirky, who are trying to get an FNCS finals appearance here. And I like the confidence already, just kind of boxing up, progressing individuals and Braids, contesting it, not giving up any free loot.
Yeah, but if you're Braids and Visuals, you want to make sure you don't allow these guys to push you off the spawn. You want to make sure you secure this spot. Because that is what the goal is for Fears and Quirky, right? To push these guys off that position where they can claim the loot once it falls.
This is also Fears and Quirky's first FNCS finals appearance this season. They're trying to not only play in this finals, but really take over. And honestly, what a moment if you can kind of take over and push Braids and Visuals off of Rift Island, claim it to yourself, really start a journey here.
So what you're hearing there, right, is that you're hearing them sort of walk in and out of that sort of circle, that zone, right? Yep. Where you can activate the flag to be captured. And every time they do it, it does sort of lift it up just that bit more. So eventually the loot will fall and the loot will be there to be had. And once it is, they will definitely start fighting for it. And you can see already Visuals, they've picked it up. And that's actually just going to be the end for Quirky. Those pulse rifles, they just melt builds, they melt players, they melt everything in their sights. And Fizz will be very fortunate to do anything else in this lobby.
Getting a rock and a hard place due to the elevation. He gets tagged up from the distance, just trying to survive. Immediately disengages off of Rift Island overall, saying, hey, I'm better off trying to play this one as a solo 4 now. As Jan and 1 Week Miracle, they need a top 32 finish here just to get into Surge Week. So as we talk about teams and where they need to finish inside of the bubble, outside of the bubble, some teams have already secured their grand spots, trying to condition the lobby. This is a team that's just trying to keep their hope alive.
Yeah, you could say they need a 1 week miracle. Put them.
I like it. I like it. Honestly, Jan,
I'm getting hate comments for that one. That one wasn't my best work, but I'm trying. It's week 3. Let me cook. It's week 3.
We saw the pregame interview come through. The last NAOS champion before the regions did combine. They need a top 32 finish today to secure their ticket for the grand finals. And what I liked what this team did mentally is even though they only need a top 32 finish, they're telling themselves to inch closer, put that goal a little bit higher to try to condition themselves. They know that finals lobby is going to be much tougher than anything they're facing here.
Yeah, they better set their aims high. If they don't make it to finals, they will never hear the end of it from me. They will never hear the end of it from me. I'm NA West's biggest critic. And if the champions of the last ever NA West season can't make it to the new NA finals, oh my goodness. You will not hear the end of it from me.
I've never made a guarantee before, but they're making the finals. That's a Jacob PR guarantee.
That's a Jacob PR.
Everybody gets one. That's
I definitely want to see it. As much as I'm giving them some light jabs that I do want to see it happen, and I definitely think they're good enough to make it happen, right? There's no reason why they can't get the sort of minimum that they need in around 32nd place. And like you said, they're aiming their sights even higher.
User just gets damaged by Storm Surge as they're 102 below. Him and Acro found a team towards the outskirts. They're just hoping they could probably get the upper hand. That's Onwin on the other side. And man, as soon as they peek through that cover, he immediately gets shut down. Stuck between Storm Surge and Onwin. Him and Zypha trying to have a big performance on the day. There goes that first elimination. Shield Cake instantly dropped back down, not wanting to waste any time. There's one well-played shot from Acro, who has to be aggressive here due to Storm Surge. Inevitably, he has to bump into the box, but Walk and Straw is over on the other side. They hear all this action going down. You can see him dropping down low, figuring out if he can steal away some loot, steal away a shot, and turn the fight upside down.
Yeah, they need to. We were talking about how well these guys have to do if they want to start making their way through the next stages of the competition. Right now, those materials are not where you want them to be. 100 or so brick, no metal. These guys are definitely going to be looking for any opportunity they can to try and sneak in some damage and eventually pick up an elim, some sort of refresh. That's exactly what they want to do. Zypha and On1, they're going to continue to try to deal damage where they can. It's actually M2 and Orc that they'll set their eyes on now as well as they start to open peak, and maybe an ODM gear play going to come out here. They need to get towards zone, and so they'll do that. But when they get there, there's Zeki waiting for them. No, just going to move past. Not going to play on the offensive. Not going to be too reckless. But instantly looking back now towards the direction they came from, because they know there's going to be players coming in that way.
For Zypha and On1, even though they're currently in that bubble, kind of positioned well when it comes to a spot into Surge Week, they need a top 2 finish to skip Surge Week and go directly to Grand Finals. That's a huge mountain to climb, but for anybody that's dared to challenge it, the rewards are definitely worth it. A week off. Rokane and Vert, 317 above, 36 points so far here in this game. 34 of those come from game number 1. His placement points haven't even begun to set in here yet in this game. Top 30, and this is feeling like it's going to go the mile.
Yeah, but that next rotation for them is so pivotal.
Yeah. Max
materials, kinetic blades, they are looking really well set up, but they have to get this next one right. So many players in this lobby still have to make their move there. You see Knifer and Byler starting to make their move there. And even though they have to invest a bit of metal, it will probably be the best thing for them as they start to continue to rack up on points. We know how big of a day they need. What do we have here? No, say it ain't so. Say it ain't so. No, 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 M-Straw. What? Say it ain't so.
For Acro, he needs those points. Again, a lot of these teams fighting to get past Surge Week. They don't want to have to risk it all there.
That is so lovely from Acro. The confidence to jump into the box and hit the shots as well. That is a very nervy thing to do in these kind of lobbies. Just jumping into someone's box and trying to take them out is hard. When there's 2 players there to fight, it's a near impossibility at times, but he gets the job done.
Injustice above Knifer and Bylaw. That could have easily been an opportunity, as you can see that they're below the damage threshold, trying to look, but they don't want to give up that high ground. They don't want to just jump into a box. Exactly because what you just explained, you're almost putting it all on the line for one moment, one battle, as we're going to get a farm pool. double the distance this time around than some of the zones that we have seen last week. And now Storm Surge, they waited too long. It's going to affect them on their rotation.
Yeah, the far pull might be a blessing in disguise for them though, right? There's going to be so many teams that have to rotate. The whole lobby has to start moving, and so there will be opportunities to get shots. The problem is, these opportunities aren't coming that fast. You have to hit them when they're there, and you've seen how difficult it is to hit shots right now for Vitir. It's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to take down these guys kinetic blading. You're going to have to jump into a box if you want to make it happen. That realization for them, Jacob, it's come way too late. Now the time has come, but with just 10, 15 seconds, one tick of damage done until they are out of the game. Vitir and Justice fall at the wayside. Couldn't quite piece it together, do enough damage to stay in the game.
Those are those moments that you remember, and it kind of forces you to shift. It's only the second game so far, so they definitely have more than enough time to really make up for it. As Bugha and Threats, both of them have a little bit of redemption arc coming into this season. Continue to explain both of them with their respective partner class Cs, and we're looking at to be the favorites to take it overall, but they both fall short. Bugha quick to make that rotation. You hear him when he coaches a lot of these other players. He knows exactly when to kind of rotate first, knows exactly when to kind of delay himself behind, and now he got himself a spot. Not the ultimate high ground that he was looking for, but definitely above all the madness towards the low ground. Pops that slurp juice. Getting scared there, trying to figure out where Braids was positioned at overall. Taking a lot of damage. Not necessarily in the best spot, along with Agers, who lost Kanata yet again. We need a 48th place on the day, and honestly, 8 points so far. They're performing a little bit slower than I would expect, but they're definitely one of the teams you can never count out.
Problem is, even with how slow they may be performing, at this current pace, they're still on pace to qualify, right? So I'm sure they won't be panicking just yet. And we can't count Agers out yet. We've seen him do some crazy solo clutches in the past. Muzz and Degen, though, a second chance at life for them. Last game, we saw them up on height with pulse rifles. They couldn't quite hold on to it well enough. Now, though, they are going to start looking up towards it. They want to be the ones taking height this time round. And it looks like Braids and Visuals have been chopped out. I don't think they even realize it yet, but once they do, it's going to be a harsh shock for Quanti and Peter, but the team who we literally saw win the previous game, they are right now not looking too hot either.
Anthony wants to go back-to-back. Peterbot will need a miracle to perform. He tries to go up and over the zone here. You got to take note to a lot of these teams getting stuck on that ultimate low ground isn't where you want to be, especially with the different elevations that these players are going to have to go through. Even water on the other end of this zone, as Peterbot's going to go up, try to follow behind a lot of these players, recycle a lot of those builds as Bylaw and Knife are just trying to get themselves a spot. Braids and Visuals get knocked back down, but waste no time trying to build up that high ground once more.
Constantly getting chopped out on height, and they're spending so many builds as a result of it. You have to make these opportunities with the pulse rifle count. I'm not too sure why he's not even trying to hit fire. They're now finally opting to use the hit fire. It was ADSing a bit too much for a moment. But with just a couple wood builds left, if somebody looks up at height, there will be a chance to chop it, but the timing, that window is slowly ticking down as the zone gets smaller and smaller. Vert and Rokane, they're not worried about height. They're worried about just staying clear on this mid-ground layer. Nobody in sight, having to use their mats very wisely. They're starting to run very, very low.
Zone's going to pull back, though, so a lot of these players are going to be able to recycle some of these builds, including Visuals, up until a certain point, because he wants to hold on to that high ground. And this is where it's more important than ever before for him to try to put down pressure from above. Don't let anybody look up. Don't let anybody know you're a solo, because in the blink of an eye, they're going to challenge it. One of those teams is going to be Muzz and Degen. Muzz's going to be the first player up, and instantly he makes the right decision on the side of Visuals to just concede. Don't fight for it. You still have more points to pick up, just like Edgy, as he goes in, takes down both Miro and Cooper to try to stay alive. He's going to get all that loot for himself. He's not really going to be able to take use of it just yet.
Backside of the zone, Edgy putting in that work. 6 limbs on this game. And if he's not careful, he'll run right into Vert, but with the form Edgy's in right now, he might just take him out as well.
Almost bone dry when it comes to materials, but at least he gets himself into the top 10. Luckily, Zone did pull back. is able to recycle as much as possible. Byla and Knifer find one slipping. Unlike last game, they're hip to hip. They're doing it this time as a solo, and this could be huge and pivotal for their day.
But they need to start making more space, claiming more space on low ground if they want to be able to hold it. Knife are doing a good job. They have to drop down, start building, start claiming exactly what they will do now. And that's going to set them up once again really nicely going into these final zones. Threats trying to heal off now. Doesn't have Booger with him. And the last of this med miss is going to be all he has to play out this game. Visuals down to 0 mats as well. And so it's going to be another game where he has to hit a big pump and he's not even going to get the chance to.
2 for 2. The players with the overclock pulse rifles go down. Don't really get an opportunity to utilize it as Threat's trying to fight into the backside of zone. And this is where it's going to come down to the wire. Vert's just looking for where these players are attempting to heal off at, and Byla go ahead and ends the run, needing a big day. This is only game number 2. This is a way to start. DJ's trying to stop the heal off, but he gets cut short. Now it's up to Muzz. The first one's going to be cleaned up. Down to a 1v1. He's on the hunt for Knifer. Doesn't want to let this go down, but he gets it stolen away. Knifer secures the victory royale when they need it most.
We talked about how big of a day they need to have. Every game has to count. We see them fight off spawn at the Citadel, and when they win that battle, they have to try and win the game, and that's what they do here in game 2. Very, very clinical from this duo.
The pressure to keep their hopes alive and a chance to make it to that FNCS Major 2 Grand Finals. And they are starting off just like any team would on a day like today, and even bringing it from solos in game number 1 to winning it as a duo here in game number 2.
And a beautiful execution of just the typical roles we see in competitive Fortnite. Byla playing as that fragger in the back of the top, Knifer claiming and taking space in the front, just waiting for Byla to deliver the mats for him to build, and then towards the end, the crucial shots just to secure the game as a whole after they made it so deep. A really, really nice game. Honestly, it doesn't get much cleaner than that. Of course, it doesn't go down to a heal off, and so they're fortunate they didn't have the heals necessary to do that. But a big, big game.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how solid their game plan is overall. It wasn't anything flashy at all, but they don't need to be flashy. They just need to be concrete in their game plan on the day, with a high placement in game number 1 and a victory here in game number 2. Do they have enough to take first place? Well, we're going to throw it on over to Zeke to find out.
As our casters just point out, Knifer and Byla need a very big day today if they hope to go ahead, skip Surge Week, go right into Grand Finals. They're very quickly ramping up. Vivid, this is where I want to see this duo, right? In this position, getting themselves victory royale, and also pairing that up with 8 eliminations.
I mean, it's incredible, right? The conversation of the day was going to be like, listen, are they going to make it all spawn? Can they really even gather up some points today? First 2 games are going great, and there's eventually going to be a point throughout the day where they actually have enough points, and it won't even matter if they go down all spawn. So already, let's set the storyline for what's going to be happening at the Citadel in Grand Finals if Knifer and Byla pick up a couple more points.
Yeah, now they're almost conditioning the Citadel for the Grand Finals. I mean, talk about clutch, needing to come out strong. They're showing it all today. Like you mentioned, off spawn, and then just having this such fundamental synergy towards the end of the game, hitting those shots, like no slouch of a game, popping off. It's like a round 1 in the playoffs, game 7, they're clutching it up.
You'll love to see it. Now, this means Knifer and Byla will jump up 7 placements to take over that number 1 spot. Now breaking triple digits as well, but Peterbot, Quanti, they are looking to hang as well, and even seeing someone like Booga and Threats right now starting to contest for that top 5. Gentlemen, I think this is a pretty good look to kind of think about. We have 4 more games in the day. I'm liking it so far.
Yeah, the team that's kind of been consistent so far has got to be DGen and Muzz. Of course, game number 1, we saw them on the higher ground. Unfortunately, they ended up losing it. But game number 2 right there, they were still looking for those opportunities. Still got 2nd place in the end of it. Still ended up on the higher ground. I will say, though, in the closing moments of this game, I actually wish that both of them dropped down at the same time instead of just sending DGen, because I don't think Muzz had more than like a couple of chug splashes for that heal off anyway. I would have loved to see them go for that 2v2 rather than the heal off.
It's a great point. Overthinking it, right? You thinking that you have to play for the heal off because that's what's been going on all season. But you're right. If they do both drop down there, they probably win that 2v1. Like, I think they have it. Nonetheless, hey, still a solid game. but it's those little things that you want to try and fix and change for when you are playing in finals.
You know, this is a team that's pretty much guaranteed for grand finals anyhow. So if they go back and like VOD review things like that, which is why these games are so important for practice, that'll be in the back of their minds when it comes to grand finals. Like, oh, we could play this a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think a lot of duos kind of take that step back, right? There has to be some kind of calm in that storm. Actually, you know, physically, metaphorically. But for these duos, they have to be able to identify those things and kind of overcome those little mistakes, so to speak. Another duo that I'm kind of enjoying right now, Rokane and Vert, now jumping up into that 6th place, right? Jumping up the 6 placements as well. Rokane, Vert, longtime veterans in the competitive scene. So I want to see them kind of push to make that grand finals performance.
Yeah, and I think in this lobby, it's really important for them to prove to themselves that they can make that jump. Because right now, like you said, they're veterans. They've done it. I believe Vert won solo FNCS Invitational. So, like, he's won an FNCS. He knows he could do it. Now it's time for them to prove that they could do it together.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we have to talk about everyone's favorite topic, Storm Surge. Now, SVD, you're crazy, bro. We're seeing a kind of a trend, right? And we have been seeing a trend pretty much at the start of the chapter. Duos like to go ahead and build up these sky bases, right? And that actually gives them a perfect opportunity not only hoard materials, but also send shots out to the other duos, doesn't it, Viv?
So the important thing here is usually positioning, and we're going to be taking a look at Zone 3 here, and specifically it's going to be Bucky and Okus positioning themselves pretty much directly in the center of Zone 3. And the reason why positioning yourself in the center is so important is because, well, you pretty much can see every single place around you, every single directional rotation coming in towards the center of the zone leads to easy tags.
And we see they have plenty of loot just sitting there, so it really doesn't matter how much damage they take. They're just going to trade it back, and they're both so good at this, just getting that Storm Surge damage, understanding that they could take it because they have those heals, and now just throw down a shield keg, you can trade some damage.
Yeah, exactly, right? If you got the constant heals, the constant shields coming in, then might as well just take some damage, deal some out. Pretty much just a win-win.
Okay, all right, so now we are kind of almost to that halfway point, right? We just wrapped up game 2. We have 4 more on the day. What are we kind of hoping to see going into game number 3? Is there any change-ups we feel like any duos need to make right now?
Ooh, I'm looking for Knifer and Byla to close it out here in this next game. I don't want them to, like, toy with us and lose off spawn. Like, lock it in, get one more, and have a solid top 5. That way they don't have to worry and they're feeling comfortable.
The thing that I've noticed in both of these games actually is that whatever team has claimed the Rift Island, has gotten that capture point, has gotten the overclocked pulse rifles, has been the team initially on the higher ground. So I think that's going to be a trend throughout the day. Might be worth going the extra mile to fight for those.
I know, man. They can be extremely difficult to handle right on the receiving end. Yeah. You're sending overclock shots my way. I ain't holding no walls against that spray. But, of course, as we get ready to jump back into the game, who better to keep us through the game? Who's going to be those eyes in the sky? It's Jacob PR, 11-2K. Gentlemen, over to you.
Already with 2 games down, we're seeing the things begin to unfold of Knifer and Byla, the story. You challenge them, you force them to need a big day, and guess what? They're delivering.
They have my utmost respect. I challenged them. I said, look, I want to see who the real from the fake were. And they are showing me they are currently the realest in the lobby. First place right now is a beautiful spot to sit in, especially when you know the stakes are so high for your season.
But you got to be careful. There's still 4 games left, and they have to be able to hold on to that consistency through and through, because we've seen teams lead very, very early on in the leaderboards and just unable to really hold on to that position throughout the course of the games. But with this being game number 3, the last one before the half, this is really true and showing about how teams are going to have to perform here. Some needing that performance to qualify directly to the FNCS Grand Finals. Others still needing to hold on just to make it to Surge Week.
And Pen and Polarized landing here at Kinjitsu Crossing. You know how strong this POI has been this season. And obviously last game we saw their game end a bit earlier than they would have liked, and so hopefully a chance of redemption for them. For M-Straw, it's not the best start to the game at all when you have Duke taking shots at you. Picks up that weapon, that red eye, off spawn, and just goes to work, really.
Those are the things that you honestly don't typically expect. You're so worried about Pam's doing Fats that you've been going toe-to-toe throughout the day. You kind of forget a little bit low of a drop and what it's going to do with all the other teams surrounding. So we continue to watch the Citadel, this off-spawn engage between Bylon, Knifer, Elysian Dragon. And you can already see Elysian Dragon getting pushed off yet again. They're trying to concede. They lost this battle 2 back-to-back games against Knifer and Byla, and they're trying to give themselves a chance, something to work with. But you can see Byla on the hunt, beginning to drop down along with Knifer. And just like last game, ODM gear really going to be a role here in this fight between the two, and it's Byla and Knifer that have that high ground over their opponents, and they're going to be the aggressors here this time around. And just like last game, they're going to take down Dragon first.
Oh yeah, they're feeling it. They're feeling good. We've seen them clean up this fight a couple times, and Elige and Dragon are just no match for them at all. Really impressive. Knifer and Byla as comprehensive as it gets in these first 3 games of Spawn.
3 games in a row, you see how things start for them. And on the other side, out for revenge after going down early in that last game. Punisher and Costa make quick work of their opponents, get those first 2 eliminations, and give themselves a chance to play here in game number 3. Trying to position themselves to where they can have control over their destiny in the last half of the day. We can see Justice and Veer with only 2 points so far. They need a top 45 finish today to secure their spot in the grand finals. A lot of these teams, they just don't want to mess with Surge Week.
I think the big thing, if you are Justice, that could be a problem, is that when you hear we just got to get top 45, you think to yourselves, oh yeah, easy. Yeah, top 45, there's only 50 teams in the lobby, like we just got to spawn in and we're good. But that kind of complacency, if you allow that to set in, it can really bite you in the backside when it comes game 6. So as much as it might seem like an easy task for them, they have to get it done. And the earlier they do it, the better.
Edgy, getting ahead of himself. Probably doing some damage to Madden and Widow. Thinking he can finish it off by himself. It leaves Duke alone. Only for a few seconds before Pamsu and Fat spot him out as a solo, take him down, all within a matter of seconds. And you can see they're just towering over their opponents, Madden and Widow. And they want nothing of it. They got their elimination. They got their damage when it comes to Storm Surge. They're like, hey, let's just disengage. Let's try to play the rest of this one out. But with Zone pulling in their direction, Fast gets tagged up with that ODM and lost a ton of HP due to fall damage. Even though he only had 46 HP overall, you can see that not phasing him, not scared, not backing down, landing a huge shot onto Widow. Madden got taken down to Costa, which gives him a big siphon and all those heals to work with as Punisher and Costa. They're just taking what they can get and making their rotation to continue on with the rest of their game.
Trashy and Pumper having one of those days where, similar to previous performances, you know, they're going to be quiet. They're not going to be the flashiest by any means, but we will see them high up in the standings.
Fast Pamsu, they finished off one of those teams. And because they didn't get that original battle against Wok and his teammate, they're still on the hunt for Surge elsewhere. They started this one against Punisher and Costa. Now they're ready to finish it as Fast lands a huge shot. Taking a tag, only 42 damage, but that second one, that's going to be the blow that takes him down. 7 HP, his shot for shot's going to land on the Fatch. Forcing a moment here of stability, forcing Punisher back even more as Pamso is there to kind of lead the charge. Taking down Costa.
Ooh, okay.
But Punisher's not going down without a fight. 2 big shots, making Pamso and Fast second guess this decision if they're going to try to finish this one off.
This is so rough, though, because another team's come in, and that just makes it so much harder for Punisher. I thought for a moment a 1v2 was possible, but Zypher and On1 just going to make it so tough for him. Punisher eventually gets taken out, yeah. It's Zypher that picks it up. That's a shame because Punisher, I can't lie, he's hitting some shots today. He keeps getting into these clutch situations and he's making me believe. I keep believing. He has my heart on strings right now, but again, we'll have to see them come back for game 4. In the case of Zypher and Onwon, though, they might just want to take the fight onto Pamsu. In fact, especially if they can hit some shots here. Zypher not trading damage in the way he probably would have liked, but Onwon's getting in, so I think this fight's about to happen. The ODM being whipped out now as well.
This is Onwon. He's one of the best fighters in the game. Currently playing constant zone wars, constant situations just like this. And that's where he's getting that confidence from, but a well-played shot on Zypher. Instead of playing aggressive toe-to-toe, he's trying to use this moment to try to breathe, get the heals back up, so that way him and Zypher can fight even longer. Pamso holding his position on the high ground, just hunting, letting Fats do a lot of the dirty work, trying to displace his opponents, allowing him to steal away the pieces and land a decent shot on one. But with the splashes, they hear him in the distance. HP going back up. Pamsu gets bull rush, bulldozed, taken down by Onwon and Zypher yet again. Fats trying to use the ODM gear, but it's not going to be enough. Onwon and Zypher going toe-to-toe with Pamsu and Fats, and they take him down.
Yeah, they came in for the third party. They picked up the solo player that was left. They pick up the duo that was in the initial fight. These guys are confident as ever right now, and it works out for them. Brilliantly done. I think the big thing when you're going into these kind of fights is that you can't for a moment doubt yourself, right? You cannot for a moment doubt yourself, and these guys definitely don't. You mentioned there, right, how prominent they are in fights. Very confident players. They practice it every single day. And the proof's in the pudding. These guys are definitely a team you don't want to be fighting.
Talk about top 48s, top 12s. Well, Larry and Yoimi need top 37 just to secure their spot in Surge Week. So even though they only got 14 points so far, they need to realize that it's the mental game that they're going to have to battle through in order to secure their points. And just like that in the feed, it's Baila who actually does go down. Success after the last 2 games, possibly being cut short as limited braids and visuals, doing exactly what they'd done in that last game, build themselves a skyscraper in the sky and just go for Surge, especially since they did pull a relatively center zone.
Yeah, Baila going down in the feed definitely does put a spanner in the works. Always tough to see the first place team having some issues. Yeah, he's completely out. Knifer, not really with a chance to help him out. Maybe a reboot will come through though, and that definitely would give them a second chance at life. But again, here in game number 3, we're seeing some shake-ups. We didn't worry about them fighting at all. We didn't worry about them getting split up like this earlier on in the day. Now though, that is certainly happening.
Team was looking like they were going to follow them, chase them towards the outskirts, but Baila knows this is his stomping ground, his side of the map. A lot of scraps left behind as well, especially the ones on the ground is holding Acorn. For the first time we're seeing him here, getting busy, taking down Acro. Users shortly looking like he's going to follow that trend as they just are right into the box, whether it's ramps or cones, they're just taking over left, right, and center. 90 points so far here, about the first 3 games, and it's 5 eliminations so far for them up until this point.
I was watching Cold in some of the previous rounds of this qualifier, and watching him from his POV, it just reinforced to me that this guy is like the best. Like when you're looking at what NA has to offer and who are the best players around, to me, he is just unequivocally the best. He is the okay, let me not make any wild comparisons before I get myself in trouble, but he is just that guy. Let's say that.
Smart move. You don't want all of NA with their pitchforks out, hunting Levin down. Hey, I wouldn't want to mess with Levin if I was anybody else, as fierce and quirky. Going against Sentin and Favs. We're just trying to make it into those placement points. Top 40 now, top 25 is where you at least want your efforts to come in. That's where the placement points will begin to set in. From there, the majority of the placement points do reside into that top 15, with even more to grab. Precurior, though, position for Sentin and Favs. They're just fighting on the side of a mountain. The team is positioned above. He's just fighting for piece after piece, trying to take advantage of Salco and Evo putting that pressure on. There goes that piece control. There goes the first shot being landed by Sentin. The knock's going to come through. There goes the finish overall. They get the elimination for their efforts back-to-back and all that loot that they can claim as their own.
That was some nice box fighting from Sentin. Doesn't necessarily get the credit for being the best in that regard, but showcasing his prowess there.
But I saw Viola go down in the feed early on in this game, and they're our top team right now. I'm going to go ahead and throw it on over to Mini Miter to see who is daring enough to put out that flame.
Minished and Sid, a team here that need a top 17 placement to get themselves into grand finals. So far today, they haven't been doing that well. They have been struggling a little bit with Storm Surge issues, so they think, you know what, let's rotate into the Citadel. Of course, we see here a little bit of a sketchy moment because, of course, they do decide to disengage, but this, of course, gets them the high ground. And this is where Byler gets taken out, of course, by Sid. We see him doing the, of course, using the Kinetic Blade to get onto this elimination, pick up the refresh, and hopefully for them, this will sort out their Storm Surge problems.
Thank you so much for that great deal of information, because I was wondering who that team was that was pushing him out as a solo. His Sniper did go for that reboot. But Pollo and Keyboard, man, the team I was beginning to talk about last game about how impressed I was seeing them perform week after week. We talked about it in week number 1 as well, Levin. Pollo almost being able to duo with Bugha. And now it's his opportunity to kind of show him what he's been missing out on. Along with Keyboard, I'm going to keep my eye on them as they progress not only throughout the day, but throughout the rest of the FNCS Major. As we jump on board Bucky and Oka, seeing this is going to be the first team that's daring enough here in game number 3 to contest those overclock pulse rifles and really set the tone for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and obviously the analysts are breaking down the way these guys like to play for Storm Surge, and so when you add the benefit of the pulse rifles to their arsenal, I think it only makes things easier for that duo. And so we'll see and keep track of them, whether or not they'll be major players for high ground come end game. Muzz and Degen were a team that opted to play that way in the first game. Unfortunately, couldn't deliver on the Victory Royale, which is something they were really good at in this qualifier. The team with the most Victory Royales in the round before this one. So hopefully we can see them pick up a win at some point today.
And that's round number 2 with the top 200 players from the region. So as you progress, the first Victory Royale might be easy. Second one, that one might be tough. That third one, probably in that stacked lobby. Hard as can be, and Jeff. Hey, Jeff, start the weekend off right. If there's anything that's going to kind of motivate you to perform here in the FNCS, it's pulling off one of those victories in that solo cash cup. He did it by heel off, so he went through and scraped his way, gathering chug splashes, legendary slurp juices to kind of finish in a top position, earn some money for his efforts. He's just trying to channel the solo play here into the duos competition. Along with Rapid as Brocane and Vert. They've been performing very, very well up until this point, and you're kind of seeing their game plan at work. Just like a lot of the teams in the lobby, you get one of those spots at the edge of the zone, you build your skyscraper, and you begin to kind of tag up. It's all about timing, though, is when you begin to kind of rotate in. Rotate a little too slow, you get behind the curve, you get stuck in a conjunction just like this.
Look who's back in the game. It's Knifer and Byler back up together as a duo. And he needs to start making up for lost time. You see the materials, 22 kills for Knifer. It's not going to happen. They need to make a play and fast. The problem is they're taking damage from all over the gaff. Really need to be careful here. Don't have much builds to even block themselves, protect themselves. Down on Surge, down on materials. If this doesn't happen right now, it's never really going to happen for them in this game. They're very lucky, though, because the team that they're actually trying to fight, they're getting taken out by a different team. They've been third-partied, and so they might just be able to pick up that loot, profit from it, take down the solo, and start making their move to zone.
Could be their chance. They're gifted right now, Storm Surge, or at least an opportunity at it. With that first elimination, they're still 85 below the damage threshold. Deep in zone. Instead of just fighting for that one, they're just being patient, knowing that opportunity is around any one of these corners, especially the one right in front of them. As they pass around the med miss. Now it's the ODM's job to try to break through. 1 Week Miracle is barely going to be able to escape, but Knifer and Byla still on the hunt. 115 below the damage threshold. They're able to land a couple of shots, but still, without heals, this is where their hot streak can finally come to an end. They just got to find anything at this point as they got to go and break through the box. That's 1 Week Miracle who's going to be on the receiving end of that one, but they don't really get much damage for their efforts. As Knifer is going to get dropped, 15 below the damage threshold. Sid and Diminish, they look at this opportunity as something, but a huge shot's going to be landed, and I think that was enough for Byla to try to stay alive, but it's Justice who gets the last laugh on the other end.
I was about to say, Diminish and Sid, they were looking for seconds when it came to Byla and Knifer. Unfortunately for that duo, though, the first place team, they fall. And it was just always unfortunate. Once one of them went down and they had to reboot, it just sort of derailed their regular game plan. They couldn't play the game the way they've been so comfortable doing the first two. There shouldn't really be a reason to hit the panic button yet. They still have more games to play and they're well ahead of where they probably would have wanted to be coming into today.
Bonte has 3 eliminations so far. Seeing how he was able to at least get first one on the Smite, second shot on the Larson, back-to-back eliminations. We go from one superstar team to another, Epicwell and Reet. Long journey from Mega City, but you see their loot has held them strong, 200 above the damage threshold, even though they're slowly falling below. They did just enough to last these next couple of zones without having to make any miracle plays to find the damage. As Acorn and Cold find themselves outside of the zone, but not having to worry about Storm Surge themselves.
Look at the journey they have to make to get to zone. Pulling all the way towards the northwest. Acorn and Cold not only have a ways to go, but they have players with eyes on them. Of course, they're sitting in this body of water right now, which makes them a target.
They just need to be able to survive, which isn't going to be tough for a team like that. On all sides, Epicwell and Reet, they get pressured. They land a couple shots, back off that team, put themselves higher than last time we saw them when it comes to Storm Surge. I said their struggle last week was exactly that. This week around, seem to have adapted, fixed their game plan, found some shots very, very early on, so that way they can focus on the rotation, which is something that they are going to need to do since they did get a farm full of this zone, and they're going to be one of those teams that they instantly react, try to be one of the first teams to rotate so they don't get stuck on this congested side of the zone.
Problem is, with how far the zone is, they are going to have to take a moment to stop. Can't just use their base to make the full rotation. And there is risk in that, but they are trying to mitigate that. Landing on the bridge, re-farming before making their move again. Justice and Veer deep in the zone, though, and Justice isn't really going to have what it takes to survive it. Veer's not even going to try carry him into zone. Understandably, he has to start building to block himself off from the rest of the lobby. But down below on Surge, you've got to think this is the end for him. They go down, and that's not great because we know they are one of those teams that, again, cannot afford to just let this lobby pass by. They need to be thinking about where they're placing in the leaderboards to progress through the competition. Look at this east side of the zone, so congested. And of course, that 8th zone pulls all the way towards the west. Everybody has to cross right back across towards the Citadel.
At least for them, even though they don't have rotation, they do have a shield bubble in their arsenal. That's gonna help them with some of the shots along the way, but not the full distance. It's going to be tough as well. You add in the fact that they have to look for the damage when it comes to Storm Surge. Squaddle looking like he's just going through so much pain on the other side, trying to find it. As they spot Macwood and Kanata, the first team in their line of sight. And they're trying to break through the box and not have very many other choice in the matter. There's so much damage It's continuously been dealt. They're battling through Storm as well. And this is where they might look at this as a blessing in disguise with so many teams forced to make a similar rotation. They're trying to use this as an opportunity to find some cheeky shots. They don't land any onto Macwood, and it cost them everything. Nick is going to go down. Squad was forced to use his last slurp juice to try to stay alive, left down to just 2 minis, and they still haven't even found any damage when it comes to Storm Surge.
Problem is, Jacob, we know at this stage in the game, it's so hard to hit shots for them. The best bet for you oftentimes is just going to be to try jump in. But with everybody rotating in, there aren't those opportunities. Squados doesn't even have a kinetic blade to rotate in, so he's in the back of the zone, taking ticks left, right, and center. It's going to be left with 2 HP and eventually completely snuffed out of the lobby.
Man, Macwood just barely escaping a fight that they wanted no part of. But due to Storm Surge, sometimes you just don't have a say in the manner. Peterbot and Quanti barely above themselves, but being above is just enough for them as they kind of look down as the highest team in the ground.
And this is a game to watch for them in terms of, yeah, we know these guys are probably going to be playing in the grand finals. We've seen already today what they can do during the moving zones. Looking for height takes, chopping it down and building up. Can they hold on to it early on from first move, and like we see some of the best height teams in all of the world do? For Moo and Scare, their job is to just try and get towards that zone, and you can see ODM gear being used to do that. Landing towards the front side, actually landing deep in the zone. Tanking a couple ticks just to prioritize the position.
They didn't need a refresh because of material. They definitely need it now to try to pick up some heals, but with 28 points, it's going to be an interesting decision to make as placement itself is beginning to reward some players for staying alive to get into the top 25. Visual and Braid get pressured. As you hear the overclocked pulse rifle become a nightmare for some of these teams. They're going to connect Blade to what they think is safety, but just like some of the other teams in the same position, if it's not Storm Surge, it's the lack of materials forcing some altercations left, right, and center.
Are you ever safe if Reet's on your layup? You can see now, knocking on doors, nobody's answering, and they actually need Surge. Just moving Surge right now. The games are stacked, the players need to start dealing damage. Reet and Epic Roll trying to rotate towards the zone, but they need to focus on hitting shots. This player's blocking them off, rotating in from congested side. So many different players in their way, and you're seeing how tough that rotation is. Epic Roll gets punished as a result. He goes down, Reet's just down to 17 HP. Needs to use all the remainder of his heals.
Yeah, because the zip line, it caused some confusion, didn't really allow him to pop the slurp juice when he wanted. And he gets it just in the nick of time as Storm Surge almost taking him down, but he gets a second chance at life. And a shot being fired off the back of on one as Storm Surge deactivates. He's still under pressure from all angles. Huge shot being taken from the backside without any build, without any resources. He's really finding no other choice but to get to the first box he sees. Is on one under pressure from all angles. A lot of his build being expended, but with a dog being backed up in the corner, his bite is much bigger than his bark.
That's one of the longest duels you'll see during the moving zones. It felt like nobody was taken out. Muzz finally being taken down. Vert and Roke once again rotating through, but they're down so low on Bill's. Gonna have to try and make a play very, very shortly. Quanti and Peterbot, they're still chilling on height, but Peterbot actually gets taken down. It just remains with Quanti. Booga's right beneath, and Booga's trying to go back up. He has the kinetic blade, and now he has the high ground.
And with Knifer and Bylaw going down very, very early on, first place opened up for grabs, and I spot a couple teams needing a big day. Scented staying alive here. He's stuck as a solo, gets chunked out in the backside of zone. He gets dropped. Booga losing threats. He tries to claim as much of the high ground as possible. He's trying to put himself in a position to where teams are forced to look up and try to find out if he's a solo or not. And he's escaped so much danger to make it into this point. Along with Adris, he gets pushed down to the low ground.
But you can see now the effects of the zone pulls, Jacob. The lobby has been so punishing to these players. So many max distance pulls. Nobody has mats. Everybody just relying on their shotgun, on their ARs. Oh, no. Barely surviving right now, Bucky. Just a lick of HP. One tick and he's out of the game. Needs the siphon to come through, and it will. 58 HP now. It gives him a couple more seconds to work with his own, but he has to try and drop this player down. It's Vert's there, and he misses out the player right beneath him. A just takes him out before going down, and Vert, with 7 in this game, he's putting the team on his back. He has the pulse rifles, and he has a 1v1 against Booga now.
There is no heals for any one of these players to really play towards the heal off, so the inevitable is bound to happen. With Booga low on HP, this is a play for Vert to make, and he goes up and steals away the game, tagging out Booga, sending him to second place as he claims all the glory and those extra placement points for taking first place.
A mismatch in HP. Booga did not have anything really to work with in that fight. But Vert was hitting the big shots all throughout this game. Look at this. Jumping into boxes, making plays. They weren't working with much by way of materials. And it was because the zones were so difficult, Jacob. Everybody had to travel so far. Nobody really had much at all. But at the end there, Bert, you almost scared me for a second, I can't lie. I was thinking, why are you ADSing with the pulse rifle when Booga's up above you, looking up here? I thought he was just going to use the hip fire, but in the end, hits the shot to win the fight anyway. And a nice win for Vert and Roking.
They got 9 eliminations as a team. He got 8 by himself, putting up a massive amount of points there in the final moments, including the placements that he took overall. A huge game in terms of them in the leaderboard.
Yeah, 8 elims all by herself is not an easy task at all. Look, so much happening all across the board in that game. So many players struggling to even have any materials. It looked like zero build at times in that one. But who better to break it all down than the analyst? Let's send it back to Z.
Thank you guys so much. This was one of the most punishing games I think we've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
The circles were wild, Vivid.
6th zone pulls all the way to Anvil, right? Hardly anybody's in it. 7th goes to Citadel. 8th goes past Citadel. First moving goes even further to the west. I mean, that was a really tough one, especially to consider as well. The water it went over at one of those points. Oh my gosh.
Multiple waters, plus going through a massive building that, you know, you can't really do much if you're just stuck on the backside.
Yeah.
So super punishing, but dude, Vert balled out that game.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, and just capitalizing on the fact that a lot of these players did not have materials. Levlin talked about it multiple times. Because the zones were so punishing, it forces these players into the situations where they all have to fight. None of them have resources to build, so what do you have to turn to? You have to turn towards those siphon materials, and Vert, obviously very, very good mechanically, taking full advantage of that situation.
That is why we highlighted him right before going into that game, right? We had that opportunity to call them out. And now they're showing us, Zeke, this is why you guys are going to put respect on our name. And because of that single game, now they jump up 5 placements, now taking over that #1 spot, just ahead of Peterbot and Quanti. And I mean, even seeing duos like Booga, they're in those final moments of the game. It just takes me back, man. It takes me back to those days of the World Cup. I'm thinking, yeah, Booga, you got a shotgun in hand. Let's make some plays.
I feel like for Booga and Threats, though, it's pretty rare for us to actually find them as a full duo in these endgames. I really want them to kind of like figure out what's kind of going on there. Of course, Booga has done very, very well in previous FNCSs, specifically when he's been with Miro. Usually both of those players would trade off these solo clutches, so maybe they're trying to find that style in this, but I feel like if this was a duo in the end game, we could see a lot more.
Yeah, you're right. That's almost like the classic Booga play style.
Yeah.
Someone just clutches it up. But at the same time, you do want to see more from them. You want to see them play it and finish this out as a duo.
Oof.
We see what happens here. Threats gets picked off, and unfortunately for Booga, he gets fought right as he tries to go for that elim. So little less HP. Nonetheless, I mean, Vert still hit that shot, so
Yeah.
it didn't really matter. Solid plays, though.
Yeah, respect to Booga, though, right? Recognizing he's a solo, but still able to go for the higher ground in a situation like that. Just well-vetted player, knowing that he can go for stuff like that, even as a solo.
Absolutely. It comes down to experience, right? How many of these duos we already expect to see something like Grand Finals. To them, they're treating as that, right? Let me get this practice in. Would I go for that? Could I go for that? For Booga, he's like, why not? I got the opportunity. Another duo that I do want to focus here on, Peterbot and Quanti, still holding down the #2 spot right now, with only a handful of games left to go. Remember, they're already through. They're just looking to play spoiler for everybody else.
Yeah, it's game number 3, so let's check off our Gamely Peterbot highlight here. You know, always has to do something. He's turning the term bot into a good thing, which typically is not. And I mean, these guys so consistent. They're going to be a top contender to win this Grands.
That trade was one that went out with Threats right there. And, you know, to note there, I think I'm a bot now. You know, so go ahead. I'll go ahead and call myself a bot because
Vivid
Peterbot
bot
is so mechanical.
Well, you're a bot. He's a robot, laser focused in everything they're doing. I got it. Don't worry. Now we have a very special little treat here for you guys. We have an interview with none other than Sancho West, oh my gosh. Of course you have to put on the nice hat, the nice jacket. Dude, it's good to see you. How you been?
Zeke, I had to match you, baby. I see you rocking the leather. I see you rocking the shoe. Everybody on the broadcast is looking great. It's good to see you all again. Thank you so much for having me, FNCS. It's good to be back.
Oh, well, welcome back to the show, man. So listen, you and I, dude, we've been around for a long time, bro. Do you have like a favorite moment from like competitive history?
Man, I definitely have to throw down when me and Shio were casting the great FNCS All-Star Solo Showdown. Going down to the last shots between Tayson and Vino, and then seeing Vino from, you know, chilling, watching from here at home in the States, watching Vino rise. That to me has been special to see him be a top dog in the EU region. Seeing that rise has been incredible, and something about that I cannot forget about as well. I know Surge Week is coming up soon, but Sprite's play, oh my goodness, that was awesome as well.
Love that. And of course, you know, we're going through the emotions right now, every single major, trying to find our global championship teams. What teams are you kind of looking forward to making it to that event?
Hey, that's a great question. You know, because I'm no longer a caster right now, I could be super biased.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I could pick whoever I want. And because of that, I know right now, you know, Costas and Punisher are not having a great time way down south, and they're having some, you know, some issues rotating out of there. It's a tough place to land, but I gotta go with Punisher. I mean, a new dad, you know, having a kid out there, got that dad power. I want to see him get in. I'm most likely he's gonna have to do it during Surge Week, but I believe in Big Pun. Pun can get it done.
I like that. Pun can get it done. Good to see you, man.
Pun can get it done.
So Punisher played in World Cup, and now we have Global Championship coming up. What does something like that mean for a player?
Oh, great question. I mean, I would say the biggest thing is that now that, you know, Epic is putting in a lot of production in the socials when it comes to like highlighting players, just being there, you got an opportunity to maybe be on some kind of a short, or not only that, you have some cool package for the broadcast. I think will be a huge opportunity for these players. But as you see, like a lot of the old school names are definitely still around, and they're making some improvements as they come along. But shout outs to the production. I mean, the broadcast crew, you talent out there, you're making some awesome interviews. I see Levin out there doing some great interviews. I mean, to be highlighted in any kind of way now that Epic is putting a lot of, you know, into that, I think it would be huge when it comes to the land that's we've been waiting for such a long time. And hey, you put anything global in front of it, Zeke, I'm in. All in.
I mean, you know, everyone sees Levin. He's too tall, so you can't miss him. Sancho West, where can the fans find you?
Hey, you can find me at everything at Sancho West. And of course, hey, Zeke, I may be meddling a little bit into that UEFN. You know what I mean? That's looking really cool. You might see something special for me in a time coming.
All right. Well, Sancho West, thank you so much for your time, man. It's great to talk to you. We appreciate it.
Hey, keep up the drip. Hold it down, Zeke.
Good old Sancho West. Absolutely amazing. Now, gents, I have another special thing to tell you. Game's ready. I know. Did I fool you? Look, game's ready. I want to get back to the action. Let's just keep this ball rolling. Levin, Jacob, take it away. Go.
You know that saying, time flies when you're having fun? Well, that holds true here today. So we're going to waste none of that time. We're going to get into game number 4 because the action has been heating up. And this is the second half of the day, so teams better make their last stand.
Byler and Knifer have been winning off spawn every single game, and it looks like in the second half that might continue to be the trend. Will Dragon and Elige be able to stop it from happening?
See, they're already creating some distance, not forcing themselves down low to the furthest point just yet. They want to scrounge together as much of the loot as they can to try to battle back much better this time against Knifer and Byla. We've been on a hot streak off the drop. Unfortunately, they went down very, very early in that last game. Their first place spot was overtaken, but they're still within that top 19 threshold in which they're looking for on the day to go ahead and advance much further here in FNCS.
And as this fight just slows down for a second, we'll take a look at some of the action elsewhere on the map. It's Hound and Aiden. We've seen them in this fight off spawn a couple times, and Hound doing his best just to keep track of where that player was. And he then picks Yusuf up with that SMG. Nicely done from Hound. And this fight, a bit slower than what we've seen in the previous games. Clearly a Legion Dragon approaching things a bit more carefully. They don't want to just give it up instantly, which is understandable. They've had a tough time here already.
Why not them? Why not Elysian Dragon? Especially with the server change that kind of gives them a little bit more to kind of fight against.
Bugha and Threats here. Bugha looking to get some metal. Metal is not the most abundant in this area, but he is currently cutting off some valuable metal for that Kinjitsu team, so they're probably gonna have to go towards the gas station if they want theirs. Knifer, though, getting business done. Picking up Elysian, so we're seeing repeats of what we've seen in previous games where these guys aren't really struggling, it seems. The Citadel is theirs.
Well, the Citadel's theirs. Pars trying to fight for it over on this side along with Baka. Much smaller than the Citadel. Split drop towards the north side of the map. Both players being dropped down. Very little HP, but one who has the med miss. Baka's trying to use this time to pop a big pot. The user is going to have much more HP to work with. Stack on the fact that he found a lot of that lost loot towards the low ground. When it comes to builds, he at least has something he can work with, but not much in a prolonged fight, and that's why you see him trying to scavenge together. Get a lot of these chug barrels towards the bottom. Try to scrape together as much of that shield as possible, and now he's able to kind of fight back. Baka take a huge amount of damage and doesn't even get allowed to touch the ground again.
User, he's been in the aim training maps, clearly. I gotta find out what his routine is.
As we jump on board, Sentin and Favs currently positioned 19th on the leaderboard. And to kind of remind you what everybody is fighting for is the spot in the finals and a spot in Surge Week for them. They need top 12 just to make it into Surge Week.
And would you say they're currently 19th?
Yep.
That's not bad. Stay on course. Keep up what they've been doing. We still sent it deep into that last game, right? And so they know how to make it to endgame. Center's been doing that for seasons and seasons on end on this region. They just can't afford to slip up. They are slightly behind the pace they need to be at. So if this was the game to put them back on pace, that would be nice. But they are going to be cutting it close. We'll keep our eyes on them throughout the day. See if they are able to clinch that spot. What a story that would be, playing together for the first time this week in Qualifier 3, and qualifying to Surge Week would be huge.
Vert and Rokane, not much for them. Farm up, loot up, not contested. Not too many teams in the distance either. As a Minished and Sid need top 17 to get their spot, secure it directly to Grands, go past Surge Week. Not too far off either. And that's what I like about a lot of these teams. They came in with a goal in mind, an approximate placement in which they need to reach in order to kind of qualify to their respective Surge Week or finals, and they're doing the best to stay on course. They're not putting it all onto one game. They're hoping throughout 6, things may go right, things may go wrong. It's all about consistency throughout it all. Kind of been where a lot of that battle has been going down at. Muzz and Degen, Sentin and Fabs trading off when it comes to the Shatter Slabs vault loot. Does look like it's going to be Sentin and Fabs get it this time. But from one vault to another, Brutal Bastion over here on this side, it's going to be Aviv and Skittles, who week after week have been claiming that loot as their own. This time they're going against Convict on the other side. When we come back, just really trying to do all they can to fend off Aviv and Skittles, push them out, not really let them get that vault loot, but he is going to get the key card, which kind of gives up his position. Not really going to be able to hide here. So no matter where he goes, they're going to figure out where he's at.
Yeah, I think the problem a lot of the time in these kind of situations is you don't want to obviously lose and cede control of the vault. Because these guys are just going to wait here, right? They know you have the key card. They're going to wait patiently. The problem though for Convict and Comeback is that you also need to start thinking about farming, right? And thinking about how you play this game out, considering you don't necessarily have access to the vault directly.
Probably contesting it though, because they do need a top 12 finish to make it into Surge Week. But from a 12th to Justice and Veer, they need a top 45 finish on the day if they're looking to make it and secure their spot into Grand Finals. Currently positioned 44th on the leaderboard. So you're talking about some of these teams where they just need to kind of load in. Well, Justice and Veer need to do a little bit more than just load into the lobby.
I mean, barely. Barely.
It's been the story of the game on the day. Some teams overperforming to the standard and what they need to do. Others, like Polarized and NPen, who already have their spot, kind of being flexible, doing different things from charging that Mega City Vault to just pushing teams out of Kenjutsu's Crossing. Anybody that even tries to take as something as simple as a little chest, they're going to try to take them out and just condition the rest of the lobby for the finals. This is our loot. You won't have any say in it.
The problem is how much damage they've done up to this point, right? If they have a bunch of surge damage done, then they can start to force their way through to the dead side, turning up towards the north. If not, though, they're gonna have to start thinking about taking some fights here. You can see this health situation isn't particularly ideal, but the shield kick will get them back up to max in that regard, and then they can start to make their move as well.
Siphon on one. Going into today, they were positioned 66 on the series point leaderboard, needing a top 2 finish to skip Surge Week. We'll go ahead and throw it on over to Taco to give us an update on how they're performing on the day.
Well, that's the thing, Jacob, is that the talk of the town is trying to avoid Surge Week entirely. And for Zypha and On1, they're under a lot of pressure. Landing at Meadow Mansion, they've been trying to prioritize splitting up a little bit, focusing on their Surge Tech damage. But we could see here an instance nearly getting eliminated because of fall damage. That Kinetic Blade just saving right at the last moment. But it's interesting being at Meadow Mansion that they're having to worry about all this contestation taking place at Frenzy Fields. So they've got to look out, because if they want that top 2, they've got their work cut out for them.
I think the good thing that we've seen from that duo is that they've been very confident in their fights in this area, right? They're not shying away from the fact that there are so many players in that area they have to worry about. And as long as they can stay on course, there's a good chance they finish today right where they need to be in the standings.
I don't even know how they got there that fast, but Polarized and NPen from Kenjutsu Crossing found their way all the way to Slappy Shores. I guess a team like Quanti and Peterbot, who are still at Slappy Shores, they land here. 171 points. This is where they're going to gain a lot of their metal, material, shields even. They have rotation. They're even taking shots from that third party off into the distance. So instead of using a lot of their heals here, they're just kind of scavenge together everything that they kind of left behind. And you've even seen Dumpster Diver, the augment being put to use to try to get even more loot that they could work with.
Oh, it's so good. That's a must pick, especially if you're in the POI where there's a bunch of dumpsters and things you can just sort of jump in and dive in.
Allows you to save a lot of resources. Salco and Evo currently positioned 34th on the leaderboard. They just need, I think, a top 39 placing on the day in order to qualify. So right now, it's just about holding on to that position. And, which sounds easy, but as the day gets on, everybody's gonna realize with just less and less games to perform, 3, including this one, 2 as we continue to count down, those opportunities to make up for points are gonna go out the window if you don't make up for it now.
We saw this opening all the way towards the north there. They're going to have a very frosty finish to this game. Degen and Muzz gonna have to heat up in this one. One's just barely being picked up there with a revive, and of course the combat cash will provide some heals for them to get themselves back up in terms of their shields. Mud's actually popping a slurp there as well, just to get them up just that bit faster. And Dejan looking for a little trade there. It doesn't actually really pay off for him. He only did about 28 bits of damage, so not necessarily ideal, but again, not devastating, not game derailing by any means.
Come back in Convict. I like how daring they are. During the last NA West FNCS run, they were one of the teams that were in contention until the very last moment. It slipped through their hands. A lost fight over towards Brutal Bastion cost them a chance. But they're out here for revenge with the combined regions, still trying to prove they can battle with the best of them. And that's why you see them here at the top of Rift Island trying to claim it as their own. And hopefully the trend of get those overclocked post rifles, control the high ground as the game comes to the end.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you're a player, that pain never leaves you, right? When you come so close and trip up at the final hurdle, you always remember that. I speak to pros all the time who, they literally will recite to me exact moments from chapters and seasons ago where they believed they were moments away from winning an FNCS. These things can haunt you at times, but it's all about how you bounce back, all about how you make up for it, and no better opportunity than to bounce back on an even bigger stage than the one you were playing on before.
Because not only are people fighting here for the spot in Surge Week for the FNCS Major 2 Grand Finals, but you got to keep in the back of your mind that it's also that global stage that a lot of these players are fighting for. They saw that FNCS Invitational last year. Now they want a piece of that pie.
It's a very big pie to want a piece of, right? We've already seen a couple players qualify through to that competition, and there'll be a lot more added this season. The team on our screens here, Cold and Acorn, a team who have already secured their spot there. And like many of the teams we saw in EU, the top teams I'm referencing, they're just sort of enjoying the weekend, right? Enjoying the weekend, nothing too intense, nothing too crazy. Okay, Rapid taking down Duke there. And we're seeing now Edgy having to pick up the pieces. It's not an ideal spot to be in, trapped and sandwiched in between two teams.
Just really interesting to see them kind of struggle in some of the fights on the day. They've performed very, very well this week up until this point, even setting the elimination record in that last round. Now they've been challenged and they've been taken down. Sent right back to the lobby, and that's all the loot for Bucky and Okus to claim as their own as they continue on. Kanata and Agers. 86 points. I think it's safe to say at this point they've secured their spot in the grand finals with their performance here in the finals thus far. Only needing 48th place to book their ticket and earn themselves a break through Surge Week.
Well-deserved break, wouldn't it be? Nobody wants to be playing in Surge Week, of course. The 5 winners of the 5 games qualify through, as well as the top 5 most consistent teams across those 5 games. But you'd much rather have that week off, take some time to rod review, prep for the finals. It's going to be the most difficult lobbies you play all season long. It's the reason why teams that you see do well even here today, right, aren't necessarily going to translate that play style towards the grand finals. It's a much different beast, and it's one that if you haven't experienced before, if you haven't played in before, can very much catch you out. It's the reason why it's so rare to see newer teams who make their first ever grand finals do well in that grand finals, because it's just such a different experience to anything you'll be used to.
I've seen some of these teams that have already booked their ticket into the finals. They're using this week as vital practice. With the zones changing week after week, the meta being shifted, heal off not being a prominent win condition. You never know what's next, so have to be forced to adapt a lot of the time, so they just want to make sure that even though this may not be the exact set of players they're going to see in that finals lobby, they want as much of that practice underneath their belt so they can have a much more consistent performance, be ready for anything at a moment's turn, even this far zone pull that they're forced with. Some teams have been gifted an easy run, but most of the lobby is going to have to overcome some adversity here to figure out how they're going to get to that mountain across the map.
It's been quite the marathon to get all the way up here. And another marathon will begin as players try to get to that 6th zone. All the way towards the west there. Trashy and Pump using the ODM gear. Going to be very hard to shoot as they make their journey through. And landing up on this mountain just to take a break as they scout out, look for opportunities for Surge. They are actually down below. The problem is, we've seen already in these games, it's so hard to hit shots in this sort of position. If they're able to connect with anything, I'd be very surprised. And oh dear. Again, we're watching a team encounter these sort of issues. Pump isn't even in a position to really help. Can he get any sort of revenge though? The players are right in that box. It's actually Rapid and Jeff. He has the edits, can connect with a shot, but misses, doesn't find anything. Jeff right on the other side of that wall, and he will hit a shot onto Jeff. And I'm sure he'd much rather have his teammate alive. And the kinetic blade journey back into the safe zone will now continue. Right onto congested side with so many different players here. But he has his eyes set on one team.
I like the way he knew that he was going to take damage to the Storm. Preemptively pops the Slurp Juice. Has to go for another one. The Storm Surge now beginning to tick in, dealing damage every couple of seconds. He's trying to look left. Spot a player, goes for the piece control onto the other side. Now he gets it under his control. Looks on, doesn't like what he sees, packs through the other side. And this is exactly why Pump is such a dangerous player. May not be the flashiest thing, but he always gets the job done, and he always makes it look easy.
Yeah, you're saying Pump's a dangerous player, and I certainly agree with you, but he has to stop being a bit more dangerous. Barely above on Surge. And with how low his heals are now, the ones he has to just run through, next time Surge pops, it's going to be an even bigger problem for him, so can't afford to sit idle. And another far pull. Again, pulling all the way towards the northwest. These games have been so punishing, and they're just going to continue to force people to use their builds, use their mats. 71 builds here for Aiden. Gonna look for a little refarm here on the tree.
Anything's better than nothing, especially for a player in their position, as everybody trying to get through so many different elevations, so many places you can hide. High ground, low ground, it's all about finding that crevice that you can work with. Rokane and Vert have definitely found theirs. But being only 11 above the damage threshold, it's not a comfortable position for them as they immediately set their eyes onto a team in the distance. With a couple of shots, they beam through the covers, but not finding anything that they can work with. They're still one below the damage threshold, and that's why they're continuously trying to fire through. They see a player trying to build in wood, and that's a sign of weakness that they're trying to exploit.
Okay, then Vert gonna look to try and pick up another game. But the setup isn't too ideal in terms of what they're working with in terms of heals. If it was to come to a heal off, their Surge situation is shambles. And the materials aren't great either. They need to find a solution and find a solution fast.
Takes down Punisher. Storm Surge just destroying some team's game, leaving them with not much to work with right before our very eyes. Vert and Rokane is an example of that. Minis being expended, shields being broken. Even though players can't necessarily see the Storm Surge affecting them, they hear the shields getting cracked. Vert's gonna go down. Rokane doesn't find any better luck. He gets sent back to the lobby, and look at everybody see that loot in the distance, and they immediately pounce trying to take advantage. Wow. They really have nothing to work with here for Muzz and Degen.
Yeah, this is really rough. If anybody even gets a whiff of them, it's gonna get very awkward very soon, and they're looking to land on height. I don't know if that was the right play. Muzz getting caught out there and now down to just a 36 HP. Moo is gonna be on the chase, gonna be on the hunt, right in his box. Can he connect with a shot? It's just a box away. Can't find the timing. can't find the opening. But when they do, they will pick Muzz up. It's Scare that does it. Moot just have to watch from a distance. But these are the players on height, the team that everyone has to worry about. And you can see they're spraying second height, spraying a team in wood. Maybe they should start focusing on the ones in metal. They're the ones that are a bit stronger. And right now, Forik actually taking down Scare.
This is where they need to start going on that run. They're just outside of the threshold they were looking for on the day. Bolt goes down. Getting a little bit too greedy here, but you can see their materials. You can see exactly why they try to make that risky play. With Zone pushing in, a lot of the teams being forced forward. They're barely above the threshold. So this revive, they think it's a must to keep their game alive. They think they're going to do much better as a duo, and with that coming to fruition, you see the Mendus being passed. Thork has to lead the way while Bolt does everything he can to heal.
2 shotguns are better than 1, and that philosophy is going to be what pushes them through this game. Canada and Aegis still alive in this one. Now going to use their blaze to move towards the front side of the zone. Very, very close to getting in there as well. Byler dealing some damage, dealing some punishment. And it's going to be Sid on the receiving end, using the last of his slurp juices. And now using his ODM just to try and get to a bit of safety, a bit of serenity. But they do have their eyes on Peterbot just above, and they have their eyes on the players below that they can get refreshes onto. Booga and Fretz now with that zone pull. Gonna look towards the front side. And you can see Booga just looking up and down as he blades, scouting out where they're gonna land. He finds the perfect position. And now maybe a chance to look up at height, see if anybody has control of it. It didn't look like there was anybody securely up there.
And with a misstep in the last game, Knifer and Byla have risen once more. But Thork, we saw Bolt go down. He's unable to make it back into the zone. He goes down in 16th place, but they inch themselves closer and closer to what they were looking for on the day. Otis and Bucky, 5 eliminations so far. Booga and Threats, they're finding their way back above, ahead of zone. They know exactly that anything is better than that ultimate low ground. You don't want to be stuck, especially with the natural terrains and the different elevations that are below.
Yeah, and we'll see with this next zone pool how they react, but currently playing on these high layers and playing it to perfection. Convict and Comeback though, players with the pulse rifles. We know anybody that has the pulse rifles in hand knows the opportunity, knows what it means. And it means high players can be that much easier. The problem for Comeback is he needs to calm down for a second, right? Doesn't need to lose his bearings. But now that he has found some calm, found some peace, it will be right back up to high ground.
Don't call it a comeback because he has been here along with Convict, trying to make use of the second half of the day. Same with Byler and Knifer, trying to go ahead and make up for lost time. They go ahead and already secured their spot into the top 10. They just need to hold on to it in the second half of the day. You can see when it comes to HP heals, they are almost bone dry as the pressure from those pulse rifles are pushing them lower and lower to the rest of the players into the lobby. But for their efforts, they've at least inched themselves into the top 7 as Yuz does go down. Booga and Threats doing everything they can, but they're out of builds, out of time as they scavenge to try to find what they can. Threats gives whatever he has left on over, which isn't much, but Booga knows how to work with scraps.
It's barely siphoned. Madsen, there's a player in front of his face. He needs to start thinking about hitting a shot. He hears that player up above him, but he's going to opt to continue to go low. Sees a Vive in that box, wants to dodge it, moves back up. No materials left. Can he jump in the box? He's looking up. He's trying to mantle. Knows the team is there. Trying to mirror them so he stays down, but there's a player right behind him. It's going to be Knifer.
Sid and Amish being pushed down lower to the ground.
Wow.
The beam gets caught out. Skittles meets that same demise. 2v2 situation as Sid takes out yet another one, but finally goes down. It's up to a minute, who stands no chance from Convict and Comeback and those overclocked pulse rifles as they steal the game from high ground.
Convict and Comeback doing exactly what you expect the team of the pulse rifles to do, but you cannot sleep on Sid. He went absolutely ballistic there. But the limbs didn't mean anything when it came down to it. It was Comeback and Convict who win the game. And look at the hurt being put through with these pulse rifles. So strong. We talk about how they melt the builds. And they're showing how to do that here. Oh my goodness. Aminish couldn't even react. He couldn't even respond. What can he do in that situation? Absolutely nothing when you're up against Convict. And nicely done and nicely executed, winning another very, very difficult game, Jacob.
Yep, they took that trend of the overclocked post rifles and that high ground and won up. They actually completed and finished off that game with a huge VR. But where do they stand on the leaderboards after game number 4? Well, guess what? I got Zeke and a new group of analysts to break it all down.
Thank you guys so much. Really quickly, before we get into things, give a little welcome to Mini Miner. He'll be hanging out with us for the last half of this competition. But something we talked about right before this game was the overclock pulse rifles. Duo's looking to contest Rift Island for it, and now we see in full effect. That overclock pulse rifle is dangerous.
Yeah, especially when you're on the high ground. And Vivid talked about it last segment. Just it seems whoever is getting it is winding up on the high ground and then punishing everyone down below.
Yeah, and I think it's mainly because, of course, you can look up at high ground. You have the potential to knock out height so easily, especially with the rate of fire that you can use with that hip fire. We can see them using it to apply pressure down below as well. And it's more often than not, when you have it, you can retain it. And this little play here from Comeback was so good. They actually pretty much run out of materials going up on height, but they actually drop down, pick up a little bit of a refresh, a little pit stop down on low ground to keep themselves afloat on the top of the high ground. Absolutely textbook stuff from Stuart.
We can't call it a comeback just yet. They are like in the 100 spot on the leaderboard for series points, so they need to work really hard these next couple of games in order to qualify just to Surge Week.
You can't have a comeback, though, without a setback. So for this team, they've had that setback. Now they're on the comeback. I'm excited to see what they can do for the rest of the day because they need it, Zeke. They need it.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at our standings, see how things are going. We only have a handful of games left here on the day to kind of close out and see who will make it into that top 40. Right now, Booga and Threats looking to overtake there in that number 1 spot. However, Knife and Viola as well. They're pushing out Peterbot and Quanti.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job so far, particularly when they, of course, contested off spawn. A lot of people would have said, you know, they might struggle today because, of course, they do have that less than favorable off spawn situation. But so far, SBG, they've been dominating.
They've proved it. They're the kings of Citadel today. And you win 4 games off spawn. I mean, you can't say anything other than that. Seeing them in endgame, we've been missing them. Haven't necessarily been able to see them in earlier weeks. So it's awesome to see them play together. And clearly, they had a game plan going into today for off spawn. And, you know, those fundamentals, what they know from years of playing this game, now it's showing in the end game.
I mean, even being contested kind of gives them an advantage. When you're on top, as they are, they're just able to get so many free surge tacticals. You know, if you're dominating like they are at the moment, so many tags coming in. If the other team is shielded up, that's 200 damage off the rip. They're just doing great, and they're enjoying their life right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of another duo that is doing great, it's actually Thoric and Bolts. Now, remember, we talked to Thoric at the very beginning of the show. However, unfortunately, this duo did not make it into games 1 and 2. So they are fighting for their lives right now here in the FNCS. They're looking to pull a couple things together to hit those last couple series points they need. But honestly, they seem to be pulling out of the gate pretty strong.
I used to have a friend that would purposely make bad plays in games just to make it more exciting. And that's exactly what these guys are doing. They're trying to keep it exciting. They can't qual too early and need to make sure we stay on our toes.
I would like to hope that is the situation here, but I mean, we'll see. Of course, they really are fighting for these series points right now. They need every last one, and they're doing all they can that's in their power to make sure that they can gain as many points as possible. We talked to them at the beginning of the show as well, and of course, they seem very confident. They seem like they know what they're doing. They're going to stick to their game plan, so hopefully it won't rock the ship for them too much, and so far, they're looking really good.
Yeah, and another duo as well. Sid and Aminish jumping up 16th place to hit that 6th place. They did not get the victory royale, but they broke that 10 digits elimination. Oh my gosh, having 10 elims in a game like this, in a lobby like this, is a testament to their skill.
It is. I mean, that is not an easy task to do. I mean, particularly when you're in the lobby of this caliber, it is not easy to do at all. And I'm excited to see how they can continue that development throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah. We should just have a moment of silence for everyone that got in Sid's way on that game, because dude just crushed them.
Yeah, I mean, they had a rough start to the day as well. Of course, I mentioned it in the mid-game package in game number 3. They actually had a really bad start. Game number 1, game number 2, I think they had 2 points after those 2 games. So they actually fixed a lot of their off-spawn situation issues, particularly when it comes down to Storm Surge. Actually rotating into that Citadel area, trying to get some tags on teams that are fighting it out. Of course, Knifer and Byler being one of those. And they've just solved all the problems, and they're reaping the rewards right now.
Hey, just keep that going, right? You're figuring things out. What's that formula for success? They're trying to identify that. Speaking of formulas, why don't we take a moment here to identify and take a look at eliminations after that 6th zone. Why don't you guys talk me through this right now? Because Rocade and Vert, they've got him.
So this almost looks exactly like what we're seeing on our leaderboard, because these are the teams that are getting refreshes heading into endgame or during endgame. And I mean, Rocade and Vert, we saw, what, 8 eliminations on Vert by himself. So, I mean, that's probably half or
Yeah.
more. I'm not good at math.
It's over half. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. And I mean, that, as you say, that bolstered them up there as well. And we're just seeing a team, a lot of teams on this leaderboard that just have that one fragger in mind. You know, you can see, of course, Peterbot being that fragging potential that he has in these end games. I mean, getting those eliminations at that point is so crucial because that can mean the difference between going down early on, particularly when you have the top 25 placement points, to actually going on to win the game, because you need those refreshes, you need the materials, and of course, you do need the HP as well with those heals.
Absolutely. So, gents, we only have three more games, rather. I'm also bad at math, SBG. You know, you've been keeping up with it in the back there. What are you thinking so far of the competition, Mini Miner? Is there anything you want to see more of, maybe less of? Duos that are jumping that you're like, hey, you guys need to kind of pull out of the stops here?
Yeah, I've been very impressed with some of our top teams today, particularly Booga and Threats. I've been really impressed with those guys. Even in that last game, of course, they were landing all the way down, they are landing all the way down the south side of the map, that very north pulling zone. I had a few questions of them, whether they were able to take advantage and actually sort of answer those questions that were being thrown at them when it comes to zones. But they have all the answers so far. They're really looking strong, and I'm hoping that they can continue that and, of course, stay on the top of the lead.
I think they will. I mean, you have one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
I want to see Acorn and Cold win a match. Like, we have not really seen them do that, and today I want to see it from them.
Okay, all right. So it seems like things are looking good from what I can understand. We want to see more duos win a couple more games. Heal off looking like that's not a thing anymore.
See ya.
Is there anything I'm missing?
Mini Miner and I are the best.
You said it. You know who's the best? You guys at home, because we have games. I know. We only have a handful before we know that top 40 moving on to grand finals and the ones going into Surge Week. Let's not wait any longer. Let's just jump right back in all the action.
The penultimate game is here. We know how close it is going to be for some of these players. These last two games really have to count. You have to get those points on the board, Jacob. And there's a couple teams who we're not quite sure if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, we've seen Knifer and Bylot rise to the occasion, but just like you're alluding to, others not finding that same luck. But like you're saying, 2 games left. This is why I always talk about you have to do a lot of that work in the first half of the day, because now with your back up against the wall, you're forced to perform.
We'll forget the first half of the day. Let's focus on the now, and that is here in Game 5. We'll obviously begin with any Fortnite game. The off-spawn battles, who wins where. The Citadel has been a very one-sided battle between Elige, Dragon, Byla, Knifer. Scented and Fabs haven't quite had to worry about the off-spawn, but they do definitely have to worry about the rest of the games and how they play off. Last game, I saw them get taken down during first move in zone. It didn't quite go their way. Oh, okay.
Well,
that's a spanner in the works.
I don't know what I'm more surprised at. Knifer and Byla getting beat out of the Citadel, or it's Fears and Quirky who haven't even landed here once on the day.
Well then, that was not something I could have anticipated happening, but nevertheless, we continue throughout this game. It's going to be Crisp and Yaz up in a battle against Punisher. And Costa, who've been on the receiving end of a bit of punishment in some of these off-spawn battles, but they definitely haven't gone down without a fight.
Great shots by Punisher as well. But Crisp, with the builds that he has, immediately takes some elevation. Tries to fire down. Punisher's popping a med kit, and that's Costa trying to put down some suppressing fire to try to buy him the time, but he doesn't buy him enough. They both get dropped, and it's Yaz and Crisp yet again who are victorious off the drop.
Not quite been the day for Costa and Punisher. It's been a tough couple of games, and they do have the one more last one just to get their vibes up, boost the ego a bit. But right now, they're gonna have to watch this game from the side. Vert and Rokane, who we've seen win a game today, currently sitting in 4th place coming into this game. And a couple points behind 2nd and 3rd. They're definitely still within touching distance of that mark, so see if they can continue their dominance. That will start with this battle here, though. They definitely have the loadout for it. Vert has shields, has the shotgun, he has the SMG. Just needs to make it click together.
Just hovering over his opponents. No risky plays being made just yet. As Yusuf just being dropped down low overall. He was left as a solo. Okus had just a sliver of HP, and that's Bucky there to save the day. A superhero. And this is a team that actually took the first couple of weeks, did most of the dirty work to give themselves an easier week 3 than some of the other teams that we've seen in the lobby. And already you see them from one fight to the next, pushing down Scare, but Bucky in an aim tool, he receives a ton of damage on the receiving end, but you can see why he's okay with trading it. With a shield keg over on his side, a med kit as well, all of that lost HP and shield is going to be no loss to him as he gets himself back up. Naughty Nets and Shane's that's been going down on us all day long. And it's been a trade between these two, TK and Ritual, Smite and Larson, back and forth, but it's this time in game number 5 that Smite and Larson get the last lap.
The analysts were talking about the historic comeback Forik and Bolts would need. They need 32nd place right now. They currently are 37th. So definitely still possible with these last 2 games. You've got to think they don't have to do too much more. But again, have to just get it done. Even if it seems so close, it seems like it's in reach. You have to make it happen. And I definitely trust that they will, given the chance they're actually able to play the games and get into them.
It's only 14 points. Not that much separation, but the main issue is they're making it far into this game, but not far enough to pick up those placement points. As Vert and Rokane, they go down after winning a game. Some of their struggles beginning to set in as Madden and Widow trying to take advantage, especially with that first knock and that first elimination going through. They have a 1v2 situation. But things are going to slow down just a little bit as Rokane repositions himself once more. With the longer you give them to heal up, the harder it is going to be. This is where they're trying to take that piece control. Take away all his options with the third party coming in. A little bit of a blessing in disguise. They land a couple of shots on the Madden, and that's going to be a green light for them to go. They instantly close the distance, take the high ground, and push them off completely. That's Convict and comeback that we've seen already show up big in that last game.
Yeah, these guys can get those pulse rifles once again. There's no reason why they can't repeat what they were able to do. Of course, the zone is going to be playing in a different side of the map, which will contribute to that. And I guess will be a very good test of how good they actually are. Sometimes we see that with players where they're only able to be successful in certain types of zones when it pulls in their favor, or maybe when it pulls far from them. This game, it's not going to finish towards the north like it did last time round.
But this is a team right here with 97 points so far. They need to jump in and have a top finish on the day. 12th place just to get into Surge Week, just like Sentin and Fabs. Same position, same spot on the leaderboard to come back, just immediately bulldoze his way in. And that was a much-needed elimination. Did you hear him talking about the situation that they're in when it comes to the points on the leaderboard? Definitely need Convict back if you're looking to make that run.
That was a roller coaster. Let's take a look at what actually happened here. So Rokane gets jumped on by Convict. Convict maybe got a bit too big for his boots, and Rokane punished him. Wow, 169. Boom, eliminated. A comeback said, hold on a minute, player. You can't chat to my boy like that and think I'm going to let it slide. Walks through into the box and takes Rokane down. And Rokane and Vert, we're talking about how high they were in the standings, whether they'd be able to catch up to second place. That's not going to happen this game. But I'm sure Convict and Comeback will not be upset about that by any means. They will be more than happy.
There's 4 teams in today's lobby that need a top 12 finish. Talked about Convict and Comeback. Sentin and Fabs is going to be another one of those teams. 64 points. They definitely have some more work to do. Currently, that 12th place threshold is housed by Muzz and Degen at 120 points. So in the last 2 games, Sentin and Fav need to double up their points in order to keep that miracle run alive. And you can see Salco and Evo, another team that has something to fight for. Currently in 39th and need a top 39.
So just gotta hold on. Easy, just sit in the box, play, go AFK. Hi, that's all this matter is this season, isn't it? Just sit in the box AFK. Easy as it goes. Oh, wow. Okay, he doesn't want to say AFK. Wow. He wants to fight for the cash, and understandably, the loot that comes from that, but can they push him off? Evo, a bit too overzealous with that peek, left himself exposed. The left-hand angle is never a favorable one. And that's just gonna force them to sit back and relax. Sentin and Fabs gonna fight for this cash. And they're fighting for their FNCS lives right now. They're fighting for their seasons. And the same to be said for Salco and Evo.
That's huge. That literally is huge. Because that was literally Sentin and Fab's games flashing right before their eyes. They need to double up their points here, inch themselves that much closer to the top 12, so that way they don't need a miracle performance in Game 6 for their miracle run on the day. It's all about consistency for these teams, and Howden and Aiden, they found that consistency along the way. 152 points. Their stride has been met. They're looking for that Storm Surge, and that's Larry and Yoimi as they have their eyes on in the distance. You see Aiden going into the zone, just trying to give himself a different angle to work with. That way they can strike from 2 different directions. Him and Hound sneaking in slowly but surely, and this is where they're going to try to do that 3-2-1 to try to catch somebody off guard.
Yeah, this is cheeky, but I like cheeky plays myself. Rolling up behind. Are they going to be aware of it now? They definitely will know after placing that ramp. And he actually is not even going to commit. Fair enough. The zone is coming. The timing for the fight wasn't there. So Hound and Aiden going to get out of the way and focus on getting to zone. Rear Injustice based up here. They're looking from the outs, from the inside of the zone, out. Looking for opportunities to deal damage. But to give us an update on what these guys have been up to in this game, we have the best tackle.
Well, for Start 11, Fear and Justice are really just trying to prioritize their placements in the leaderboard over everything else. This is a duo that needs to secure a 45-place finish or better if they want to ensure that they actually are locked in for those top 40 duos. And this is a perfect example. They're not even trying to compromise their current positioning. They know that they're sitting on top of a duo, but they wait until Zeki and Maniac actually push out before actually choosing to make a move. They're not even looking for surge tag damage. They're just trying to make sure that they can still remain safe and keep their run going.
Needing a 45th placing on the day, just like Taco broke down. Sounds much easier than it actually is, especially in a lobby this stacked with hungry competitors fighting for so many things of their own, but they currently reside in 45th place. Just like Evo and Salco, they just need to hold on to their position. With so many hungry teams, you never know what they're going through in each and every one of these games. Down on Storm Surge, needing loot. Sometimes you might not have a choice as Booga and Threat sitting in first place, trying to make that slow rotation so that way they don't end up on the congestion side of the zone. Not much action going on over here on this side of the map. Booga and Threats, they kind of that patient game plan, already sitting in first. They know as the day and the games do progress, those eliminations, opportunity for Storm Surge would naturally present itself. They have all the experience in the world. They know not to get too antsy. Miro and Cooper, same thing for them. Patience is a virtue for a lot of these teams.
Degen and Muzz going back to what they were going for in game 1, where they were playing with the pulse rifles, and right back up here now and gonna look to claim space here. Need to make sure they cover up the space, the most important space here, yeah, right on that. And he needs to build up a bit here as well, just in case anybody tries to contest him, because on one is here.
What?
Build up one more, my friends. Build up one more, please. If you allow them, they will just be able to take it. They're actually gonna go for the ODM play. They just want to fight. They just want to fight for it. They don't want to try to claim it, play games. They want to get inside box. Legion of Must barely holding on though.
Cheeky timing there from one is Zypha. One after the next to try to keep the onslaught of ODM attacks intact, but Zypha goes down, gets a little too antsy. They get dropped off altogether, but in comes the new challenger. Epicwell and Reet now want to claim those overclock close rifles as their own, and they're ready to battle against DJ and Muzz to make that happen. You got to think Vault Loot versus no Vault Loot on the other side, so they have to be wary of the Mythic Havoc Pump Shotgun and the one-shot potential that it does possess, as Epicwell is trying to take away these pieces one after the next. A lot of that control is going his way as he's closing down options of DJ and Muzz. Still going to be contested there in terms of Epicwell and Reek are going to claim that loot from On1 and Zypha. Even when shots do get traded off, they have much more heals to work with, much more materials as they keep the capture point contested. Reek, he's not scared. One of the best controller players in the world, one of the more aggressive players at that. Gets to the box. The one-shot pump's going to come through. Gets a great shot onto Degen. Him and Epicwell try to bulldoze their way into the lobby and take him down altogether. With that Vault Loot, well-placed shots and aggression from Wheat is going to take it all.
Lock him up. Lock him up. Send him to jail. Send it. He's not allowed. It's not fair. You can't be allowed here. What a player he is. Drops right into the box. The player's in his face. And he's never missing that one, is it? He is never missing that one. 200 to your head top. Reet and Epicwell will have control of those pulse rifles. And to think about what they can do with them is very, very scary. When it comes endgame, the thought of Reet dropping down into boxes with the pulse rifle and the mythic shotgun. My oh my. We could have a game on our hands.
Quanti, 189 points, going toe-to-toe with Bugha and Threats on the other side. Former teammates, they do want that top spot. They want the bragging rights, everything that they can get coming into this final week. Just outside of the zone, they have to be careful though because they are pulling into the congestion side.
It's going to be a tough rotation to make, but using these bushes to their advantage, scouting out where their position is, and figuring out the pathways they can take to get to zone safely. Acorn and Cold similarly are in a bush right now.
Is that stat real?
It's mad, isn't it?
I know you were talking about separating the real ones from the fakes, but Acorn and Cold, 20 points in every finals game they played this season?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It feels like they're playing on easy mode when they play these lobbies, I'll be real. It wasn't too long ago where they got literally like a top 4 in every single game of the weekly final. Unreal stuff being achieved by these boys. And in a day where it feels like they've been somewhat quiet, they're still performing at such a high level. I mean, talk about favorites going into the FNCS final. Again, the reigning champions. So it feels like maybe we haven't mentioned that enough today. They are the ones that hold the FNCS pickaxes in this region. Threats being taken out on our screen there by Acro and User. And I feel like we've seen Acro and User in these sort of fights where things aren't too hot in their favor, but they're making things work with their backs against the wall. And this is what I feared for everybody else. 400 ammo and a pulse rifle. It's just, yeah.
They're the only ones that get to do this, but let me tell you, they're having the time of their life right now. They are just laughing, smiling, targeted team out into the distance. Eventually those smiles come to an end. He gets targeted, but those tags are going to mean nothing with the amount of heals that they possess at the top of Rift Island. As Agers trying to pick Kanata back up, get him back into the game. 322 above the damage threshold. The Storm Surge does turn off for now. They do got a far pull in terms of rotation. But with a couple teams in front of them, they definitely have their work cut out for them, just like Quanti, who lost Peterbot. He's stuck doing the rest of this one as a solo. Coming into this one, they were in third place, losing that tiebreaker to Knifer and Byla. It's gonna be tough for Quanti as a solo to kind of steal that one back.
Fabs is a great player, but this is a really tough spot to be in. You can see so many arrows in the bottom right of the screen. Those are all the different players around him. He's actually going for the reboot. If Peterbot survives being rebooted here, if nobody shoots him out of the sky, I will stream every solo cash cup for the rest of the season.
Uh-oh. I'm holding him to it, folks. He's going to be the first one going down.
No way he wins this, right? Oh, my... Oh, for a moment. For a moment.
Tough.
No solo cash cups for me. Skittles, though, does lose a V. Fortunately, he's in a brilliant position to reboot it, but he's not going to take it. He's not going to do it. Maybe we'll look to do it elsewhere. Maybe looking for some old loot he's aware of. Either way, it was a very tough situation for Conte and Peterbot to be in. Acorn actually goes down in the feet to Trashy. Hold on a minute. What's going on with our guys? Acorn and Cold. We're bigging them up earlier, so they were in a fight. And it looked like things were going well. Forik taken down. Bolt's taken down as well, but unfortunately now they're having their own fair share of problems. Acorn gets picked back up, but instantly being forced to rotate into zone, and a large chunk of shields and materials having to be burned for this duo.
With Bolts and Dork going down, stuck on 28 points. They have one last game to secure their ticket directly to the FNCS Grand Finals and skip Surge Week. Otherwise, they're going to have to go through the same struggles as 50 other duos throughout that format. Bucky and Okus, they secured their spot in the Grand Finals, playing for practice. They continue to rotate, trying to get towards the front side of the zone. They did a good job of timing this one perfect, bypassing a lot of the teams, and now they're just waiting for those kinetic blade charges to recharge overall before they continue to use those to try to get toward that front side of zone. The later you are, the harder it's going to be, and now they're just stuck, getting focused, so many different angles. Bucky's shield getting dropped down low, him being forced down a layer as well. Now zone's playing a role, it's beginning to push in. A lot of those flashes being expended, and once again, he just gets chunked out. 12 HP in a dream as he finally makes it to the edge of the zone.
I mean, really tough spot to be in. The chug splashes will get his HP back up again, and the minis are there, but still, just not working with much at all. There's players in the zone that they can capitalize on. A Siphon would do wonders for Bucky here. They might actually just find it. Oh dear, no, he's not behind there. He is behind there, though. They now have spotted him again, but just slipping out of their sights.
Minish and Sid take down the heavy hitter of the team. 72 points. Favs and Scented still trying to keep the miracle run alive. It looks like they even captured themselves some vault loot over towards Shattered Slabs. A new drop for some of these players as they're continuing to try to make it work. They have an elimination each as well. As we're seeing how they even found those eliminations. Scented almost going down 2 HP as he took down Agers. The rest is history as he continues to try to stay alive, but Trashy and Pump do get taken out. That's Epic Well and Reet who get their 5th elimination of the game.
And I think it's a safe bet to assume they're going to get a couple more with the weaponry they have in box. Oh dear. Maybe I've jinxed it. Reet goes down. A revive probably will come out here. And if it does, they do definitely have the heals to get themselves back into a good spot. So the dream is still alive. There is still potential for them to get a bunch of LMs in this game. Reet is nursing himself back to good health. They are in the zone, so definitely still more to be done.
Reset some of those edits. Epicwell gathering that information along with Reet. As they look to the backside of zone, they know a couple of teams are back there. They don't know exactly which layer's on. That's why they're trying to take the pieces underneath their control, using those old rivals to melt for the builds, make it that much easier. As they continue to look for who's back there. That's Salco and Evo, but they're a few layers up. Tragic and Cease, a few layers higher than that. Everybody having these different elevations as they continue to try to work through the end game. Favs found another elimination on their way, 82 points. A team that we're looking at here to perform on the day. They need 12th place overall if they're looking to keep the dream alive.
This is such a pivotal game for their season's hopes. Scented and Fabs Both of these players have done it many times on their respective regions beforehand. They know what it takes to do well in games like this one. But these end games have never been so clutch, so intense. They need to make every single right decision. And initially there, the spot they choose to land in zone is a nice one. Season Tragics have built all the way up here to ultimate height. Nobody really looking at it. Everybody just focused on what's ahead of them. Everybody focused on trying to get into the zone.
There's only a handful of teams ahead of anybody that needs that top 12 spot. Acorn and Cold, they're just looking for a refresh. Don't have very many builds. You can see their heals are not looking so hot either. Shield is going to be the name of the game, but with zone pushing them in, they're going to have to go. They're trying to be one of the first teams there. That way they can look back and find some comfortability. Scented takes a massive shot, but takes some storm damage. That way he can pop the slurp juice. Fabs does the same, but instead of fighting this fight, they're just disengaging. They know how important survival is, and with top 14, there's still so many placement points left on the board.
They need to get themselves up around in that 120-point range to get top 12, and the limbs like that are going to send them right into that trajectory. Need to be careful, though. There's a team waiting for them right there, but they're able to create the space and get out of the way. These guys are going to talk for their lives. Scented leading the way. He's done it so many times. Madden back deep into the zone. Those floppers will definitely be useful in someone's hands late in the game. Will he be able to make use of them? Going to get into zone build and would and use that med mist up as well. But this journey continues. He can't stay there for too long.
Without this game really going to heal off, Storm Sickness really isn't a worry. The players can stagger themselves in and out of zones as Chris finds another elimination, taking out Larson. Him and Spike's run come to an end as we get ourselves into the top 10 as they continue to look down, backside of zone, trying to find anything that they can work with. It's Epicwell and Reet, even though they have everything in the world and more when it comes to loot and resources. They're just trying to stay ahead of the game. It's all about bragging rights, practice, setting yourselves up to be that legendary team you know you can be, as Acorn and Cold become the target with those pulse rifles, surviving on an inch, as Epicwell and Reet are now forced to rotate.
Those guys aren't on height, but they have so much power in this lobby. Tragics and Cease are starting to run incredibly low. We saw how many materials they committed to build up for height in the first place, and now they're feeling the effects of that. A very far zone pull to finish out the game, and so it's going to get real intense for them, as they're going to probably have to start dropping down and thinking about taking a fight. When you do drop down, this team's going to be here waiting for you. It's Reet, it's Epicwell, and just below them as well, it's another powerhouse of the lobby of the region. It's Acorn and Cold. These two teams are going to come colliding at some point, and that time is now. Acorn and Cold are the ones ready for it. They're the ones hitting the shots.
And it's Yuz out of nowhere who was able to land that first shot, really separate Epicwell and Reet and allow for Cold and Acorn to take over as we inch ourselves into the top 4. Everybody is duos except for one player trying to keep his hopes alive, as Acorn and Cold have full control of the low ground. Yuz and Chris, not ultimate height, but they're trying to escape through on that middle layer, but they get tagged up. Yuz gets dropped, but that's going to be a trade as Cease gets taken out as well. Chris, even though he has the knock, he's unable to get the Siphon to go through. That's Tragic who takes another player out.
Tragic's getting some revenge as Cease was taken out moments ago. But in this fight here, it's so hard for him really to do anything against Acorn and Cold, who look so strong. Epicwell, you've got to think will fall eventually. He does, and it doesn't even seem like Tragic's had much HP to work with at all there. It will be a nice and easy win for a team who we just cannot stop talking about. These guys are champions for a reason. They make the game look so easy, and they do it here again in Game 5.
Yep, but even though they got that big victory royale, you got to realize they're smooth, they're sailing, they're comfortable as could be, because not only do they got their spot in the finals, they're already in globals as well.
But that's the problem for everybody else in this lobby, Jacob. The better these guys do, the worse it is for everybody else. They're stealing points from other teams, right? They're spoiling the party for those guys, but they're making it look so good in the process. Look at Cold, man. I said earlier today, he is the best this region has to offer in my eyes. And some of these shots just shouldn't even be possible for the normal man, but he is no normal man. This guy is an absolute animal, an absolute beast. And to finish out the game, it's just to hold on. All of their opponents just fell. They're like, oh, okay, we ain't even got to bother with all our heals. We can just win the game nice and easy. Acorn and Cold take Game 5.
They're just a duo that complements each other better than almost anybody else. The IGL with the mechanical prowess along with Cold to take the game. But we talk about Scented and Fabs, Comeback and Convict, Bolt and Thor, teams that need a big finish here in our final game in order to take that top spot. But where do they lie on the leaderboard going into this final moment? Well, we got Zeke and our analyst to let us know.
One final game here to go in NA before we know the top 40 going to grand finals and the top 90 going into Surge Week. Acorn and Cold, a duo that already has a spot in Global Championships later this year, looking to play spoiler for everyone else. Levin and Jacob talked about it. When they win, it's actually worse for everybody else, SPG.
Is it though? Because they're already going to be at the top of the leaderboard. So who really cares? But I asked for them to win a game and they go and win the next. Like, what?
Wait, quick. SPG asked for something else.
$1 million.
Okay, he ruined it.
Just way too exaggerating now. Yeah, see you later, mate. But no, I mean, when SPG asks for something, you deliver. Maybe not $1 million, but for Acorn and Cole right now, this is exactly how they play. This is prime Acorn and Cole. And I think because they were on these mid to low ground layers, they were able to pick up so many refreshes, and we saw it there at the end. They had enough time to heal off for another 30, maybe 1 minute, 30 seconds, or maybe 1 minute. So they had so much time left in their game when everyone else just fell.
And playing it at like the perfect pacing, not trying to go too quickly. We see they had, I believe, 7 or 8 elims, but not enough to where they're just totally fragging out. They're playing it slow enough to where they get refreshes, continue to play that low ground, and you love to see that play style from them.
Absolutely. Well, gents, we have to take a look at our standings because remember, 1 game left to go here on North America. Booga and Threats, they're looking great, right? 210 points, currently leading the top of the pack. However, Acorn and Cold, once again, looking to play spoiler, jumping up to 6 places here. Epic Whale, though, and Reed up 12 places. They're in your 7th place. What in the world? Obviously, like if you've never heard of these guys, they are some of the very best in NA West. Now looking to compete here in NA as a whole. I want to see more of this duo, though.
I want to see more. I think we deserve to see more, and these guys deserve to have that stage as they always do, because this game all kicked off with that Reet 200 pump onto Muzz, and then just cleaning up the whole Rift Island, so they were able to pick up those pulse rifles, and then they just went absolutely crazy on the rest of the lobby. These guys are absolute machines when it comes to fragging out together, and they're not necessarily doing it in crazy ways. They're not jumping in boxes on their own. Of course, Reet does have the potential to do that, but Epic Whale is right there as well. He's right behind him, ready to take advantage.
For, I'd say pretty much every other player, I would not advise to jump in a box.
Yeah.
But Reet does that on a regular basis, and it works. So, you know, Reet, you keep doing your thing. They're just knocking down the pre-edits, firing away with those pulse rifles, and hey, dude, they slayed that game.
I think Epic Whale is like the perfect combination to Reet as well, because Epic Whale isn't the type of player that will be jumping in boxes on his own. Reet definitely will do that, but Epic Whale's kind of like tagging along. He's like his little buddy, you know? It's like, okay, I'll protect you. You don't need protection because, I mean, you're Reet, but you know, they're doing great.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give a little tip of the hat here to our team in 10th place, jumping up 11 places. It's Yuz and Chris. These guys have secured themselves a spot in the grand finals. They had to put on a good show for us today, and now with this, they are basically guaranteed that spot.
Dude, shout out to both of them. I know Yuz is a player that's made a couple of grands, but still looking to make that next jump, and Crisp has been doing really well playing with NPen in the collegiate cups. So it's awesome to see them now have success at this stage. 10th place in a weekly final, that is no slouch of a placement.
And remember, they're contested today, so that definitely could have thrown a few spanners in the works, but of course, they had the answers to it so far. And I'm sure game number 6 will just be a victory lap for them because grand finals, they're on the way.
Absolutely. Okay, so we have 1 game left to go. Who are you guys looking for, right? Because remember, some of these duos, they're being gate kept, and they're just thinking, I got to go to Surge Week. Some are like, I'm just wanting to stay in the grands, and I very well may get pushed out into Surge Week. Is there duos you guys have eyes on?
I'm going to throw it to you first.
Scented and Favs, right? This is a duo that I want to see. I want to see them pop off. We saw them in that end game right there. They had all it took to go out and win that game. Vivid was in the back. He was saying they have so many materials. Why don't they just build? Why don't they just go for the front side of zone and not try and go for those eliminations? But they got a little bit too greedy, and that's why they're sat in 19th right now. Although they are moving up, I think we were saying they needed the top 12 by the end of the day, maybe a top 10. So within that region, they need a very, very good game at 6 today. Otherwise, the dream's over. It's all over.
Yeah, they're about 30 points behind where they need to be, and we all know how this works. You need a bunch of teams to fall early, otherwise you're going to be left behind. Hey, it worked one more time. I want Scented and Favs to win a game right here. If it works again, I'm done.
I mean,
I don't even, if
he's
it
the
works.
guy for it as well, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, it would be. It would be. Another duo, Aegis and Kanata, they're looking to try and do well. They want to make sure they have that grand final spot guaranteed. They're currently sitting in 20th place, and we've seen big games out of this duo in the past. This is that time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty much in the driver's seat at this point. They don't necessarily have to do too much. Just don't fall early and don't leave it in everybody else's hands.
Yeah, they're uncontested, so they shouldn't have too many problems, but I'm liking this team so far.
All right. The nerves are kicking in. I'm stressed. Are you guys as stressed as I am? Please say no. Please be confident.
Do you want to hug?
Look at my hand.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
The Rock. I'm not stressed.
Thank you, man.
Are you stressed, SVG? Not shaking at all?
No, I think we're good.
No nerves?
I'm shaking a little bit.
Leaks like this.
Dude,
Game 6.
yeah, don't zoom into my hand. You'll see it shaking. But this is it. We only have a single game left to go, which will determine everything in North America. How does it all end? Who will make those spots? Who will be pushed to Surge Week? Let's find out. One last ride here in NA.
It's the final countdown and the final moment of the day. Game number 6, where it laid all on the line for some of these teams, where we already got players like Knifer and Byla. They secured their spot. Aegis and Kanata, they just need to not fall short. Others not finding that same luck.
It is the last chance to make it count. And if you are one of those teams, this is the most important drop of your season. You have to not only have the best drop, you have to hope that you get the best of spawn loot as well in your favor. You hope you pulled the perfect zone for your team. You hope all the circumstances go right for you. Byla and Knifer not going to be contested here in this game. A switch up from the last where they did get taken down. And obviously we've been used to seeing their dominance of spawn at this spot, but this time round, keeping things chill, uncontested.
Curious is brave, goes for the 50-50 against Okus. He does actually win the weapon. Okus gets dropped. Yusuf trying to close the gap. Bucky's in a 1v2 situation against a Maven and a Havoc, as Yusuf even finds some slap juices to work with. Spots out Bucky, tickles him just a little bit. Not a lot of damage, but a 2v1. They instantly are trying to close the gap. Not a lot of builds. It's now or never for Bucky. Needs to land a huge shot as he's continuing to be put under siege. And that's it. That's the run. Yusuf and Curious come out on top.
Nicely done. The trailer park fights can be so here or there. Sometimes you can't really call it until both players are taken down, but in that case, they come out on top. Yuz and Chris, though, we saw them deep in the previous game, and we've seen them, when given a chance to play our game, is be very impressive. The key thing here is making sure they can get the revive off before Punisher is able to heal. And he is in another spot where, again, he's trying to stop it, and he will stop it, actually. But will he be able to actually win the fight against Yuz? Yuz has such a HP advantage against him. The shotgun as well. Back to trying to revive again. And Punisher once again trying to stop the revive, but they're not going to take the bait. They're actually going to hold on, and he'll pick up his teammate Punisher. Allowed it to happen, and now the 1v2 not in his favor whatsoever. They just got connected with the last couple shots, and Yuz and Chris will come out on top and take the L to rub salt into the wound.
That could have almost been a blessing in disguise. He could have landed that shot on Yuz. Gets the siphon, would have been able to keep him alive longer, but just wishful thinking. Sphere and Justice still need to get themselves into the top 45 to skip Surge Week. Currently positioned 47th. Going up against Convict and Come Back, who needed 12th place finish on the day. So both of these teams really fighting for everything here in the final game. And you can see Veer just trying to pick up the Havoc, trying to up his potential to land a great shot.
I said earlier in the day, right? These guys, all they have to do is get 45th. It sounds like the easiest thing in the world to do. There's 50 teams, just get 45th. How hard can it be? Like, just get a couple points. But like I said back then, it is not easy at all. They have to get the points on the board, and they're taking down a top duo to try and do it, but no! Convict wins the 1v2. He takes down Justice, he takes down Veer, and all they had to do was get 45th, but they've fallen now at 47th. They will not progress to the final straight away. Oh, that is so tough. That is so tough.
And with that, they are now 1 point behind 12th place in their own miracle run to try to get into Surge Week. Is Duke and Edgy. Phenomenal round number 2. Not the best day, but sometimes all anybody remembers is the last game of the day. There's plenty of time to make up for it, especially after you get that full-on team wipe. 2 eliminations for your efforts.
It just goes to show you can't take it for granted. 50 teams in the lobby, yeah, 45th. Easy peasy, I'll do that anytime. They couldn't get the points on the board. I'm sure they'll think about every possible moment where they could have done something to save their run. In this case, Centered, scurrying away, hoping Favs can get in some sort of position to help out. Snoxy and Stacky are lurking in this area and causing problems for them.
Looking around, 34 points. They're just trying to get as much metal as possible. That's the thing about some of the materials, including even brick in some scenarios. Very scarce, hard to come by. Jump back on over towards Naughty Ned. We started with this fight on the day. As we tune back in, as Larson and Smite going toe-to-toe, they get the first elimination, put themselves with a huge advantage in terms of numbers, but TK is not slowing down. Takes a huge shot. Shields getting dropped down. Chug Splash is being forced out, but it's not even enough to get him back up to full shields. So you can see his demeanor in this fight has totally switched up from having confidence in this situation to now just trying to scurry to the low ground and just try to hide and hope they forget about him. With ODM gear, though, that's not going to be a viable strategy as they immediately disperse him, take him out of the builds, and take him out of the lobby altogether.
And unfortunately, for TK, that will be the last we see of them today. Forik and Bolts, they need 32nd place in the leaderboard to secure a ticket to the grand finals. And they currently come into this game at 41st. So they will have to really perform in this game. We've seen them have their fair share of struggles. But this game has to be the one for them if they want to go automatically to the grand finals. They don't want to have to play in Surge Week. Remember, this is a team that we've seen literally win FNCSs, albeit on NA West. But they don't want to have to play Surge Week. They want to go straight to the finals.
Salco and Evo trying to do the same thing. But with the final game, that really does put a lot of pressure, both in terms of where you're at in the leaderboard, but mental pressure as well. Makes you even second guess at times some moves that in other instances would be second nature. So definitely count anybody out. Nothing is guaranteed. Everything is still worth fighting for, especially on this side of the map or zone. You can already see it is going to have a western shift this game around. So everybody on this side of the map is going to have to maybe think about something different about how they're going to get surged than from games past.
Aikman and Codes showed us last game why they are the reigning champions of this region. I say reigning champions of this region. We're still yet to crown the first champions of this new NA region, but they're the reigning champions of NA East. And definitely a team everybody should be worrying about. So consistent in their approach. Literally the best team in this region to study when it comes to consistently making it to end games. It seems like they just do it time after time.
Two eliminations so far with the zone. Opportunity to push in this direction. Might give Duke and Edgy much better go around. Just on the edge of zone, you see that one team towards the outskirts. As they continue to try to farm up, loot up. You see Duke not necessarily using those splashes because he's waiting to find anything that he can scavenge towards the outskirts. Talk about chasing dreams though, Levin. Larry Yomi. We had top 37th finish on the day. They're already in the top 30, so their position is already secured. As long as nothing drastic happens, no nightmares, no meltdowns, they'll hold on to their spot.
Yeah, and for a lot of the teams that are tracking today, right, a lot of it is about securing a spot in the grand finals automatically. Yeah. Even if those teams fail, they still get a chance to play Surgery. These guys, though, need to hold on to where they are in order to make it to Surgery, right? If they have some sort of a slip up and go down here and get overtaken, that's the season done. No Surgery for them, so they have to hold on.
Some of these teams still fighting for their spot on leaderboard. Others just need to hold on. And then there's the very few, like Booga and Threats, who have it secured, and some, just like the team that they're going against here in this fight. N10 and Polarize every single week. Aggression does not scare them as Booga and Threats. They just want to hold on to that top spot. They're disengaging here. Instead of wildly just trying to push teams out of your drop, they're playing for that win here in week 3. Duke, again, getting aggressive at a moment's notice. Now's the time to try to hit the ground running, especially with a huge shot being landed. Don't want to let damage like that go to waste, but that's Pamsu and Fatch on the other side, forced to play defensive against Edgy and Duke, but you see the ODM gear and the threat that it causes. With a tag like that, that might have just saved the day, but they get it in the box regardless. Fatch goes down. That's not going to be the best look. He's actually able to survive a lot longer than I'd hope. And even Turn Burns takes out Edgy. Pamsu takes out Duke. Makes me eat my words.
Wow. Pamsu and Fatch. Duke and Edgy, they ran out of mats, so they were just trying to get him box. Wow. How low he was.
What?
The slurp saved him. If it wasn't for that slurp, he's a goner.
And then he plays the OG Llama Bell song to celebrate the emote. Bolts and Thoric, 30 points to start this game. That's how much they're down for the threshold that they're looking to reach here on the leaderboard. They're down 38 points, or 30 points. Obviously, that's going to open up just a little bit as the teams ahead of them continue to stay alive. But their problem is they're making it late into these games, but they're not making it late enough to capture a lot of those placement points. Back on board a fight that Booga and Threads actually started against N10 and Polarize, but now it's Larson and Smite. Kind of sub him out. One's going to go down. Larson's stuck by himself. N10's getting aggressive. Shields are going to get cracked. Piece control is going on over as well. Polarize is using this as a moment to try to stabilize himself. Pop that slurp juice, get himself back up to shape as N10 costs his destruction with the ODM gear.
They win the fight for this cash, and they've got more loot than they can do anything with. And that'll be nice to come back to. I don't think the game's going to end anywhere near here, unfortunately for them, so it's probably not something they'll come back to. But it could be some useful spare shields to get a bit more surge here in fourth zone before the game starts to wind down.
They're going for it just yet. User and Edward, they surveyed around. They spotted nobody even trying to kinetic blade, ODM, rift their way up, or grab the zip line. So they said, hey, if nobody's going to go for it, it's wide open for the taking. Why not us? But the rifts now sounding off. That's Epicwell and Reet. Quanti and Peterbot all making a claim for it themselves.
Everybody wants it.
Yeah. And while all that action's going down, a team that just needs to kind of skate by, get those placement points, that's Sentinel and Fabs. And I gotta say, this is a rather smart decision as they let the lobby just take each other out. 134 points. That's the top 12 threshold as it stands right now. So they definitely got some ground to make up. So Epicwell and Reek, they were able to get one on the Edward already. User's stuck by himself. He gets boxed like a fish. Finds an exit strategy as Reek continues to put the pressure on. But other players have now entered into the mix, spraying the covers from far away. You can see Peterbot and Quanti hovering towards the low ground, waiting to strike when nobody expects it most as Reek gets tagged up, forced to kind of converge himself towards the low ground. the capture point does go through, a lot of that loot will kind of pop up in that mid layer.
And we've seen them claim it in some of these previous games. Literally the last game we saw them take it, right? And that was, let's just say, not the nicest for everybody in the lobby. Replay of that Elim here. I mean... that's like the few times that augment is just not the best. He's probably trying to spam jump. His box just gets destroyed and aerialist. The thing that gets me though is just that like you could like cut that, right? And you could tell me that's like any season of Fortnite with Reet SMG in hand, and I just believe you. It's just been such a staple of Reet and his gameplay. But look, beyond Reet and what he's been up to, we have Taco here to give us a final update as we head into the end of this day.
Look, weight of the world on their shoulders. Scented and Favs know that they need to close this one out with likely a top 10 finish and nearly being taken out in the process. But maybe it's a sign of good luck here for Favs, because shortly after nearly getting crushed by the map itself, he finds a nice purple kinetic blade. He already has one as well for himself. So for Scented and Favs, it definitely seems as though their loadouts are ideal for being able to actually finalize in the top 10, but they need this one more than ever.
It is crunch time for this duo. Things are setting up well for them. The luck is definitely there when it comes to the loot. But will things actually wind down and be able to work out when it comes to getting those final points and securing a spot in the top 10? I mean, I'm sure there'll be lots of people at home rooting for them. How could you not? Oh dear. This is not what you want to see. Scented falls. And it just leaves Favs in a situation against Canada and Aegis. The one team in the lobby they probably don't want to be in a fight against. Favs has to do everything in a big shot. Onto Canada, and a big shot onto Aegis. Favs, you absolute animal. Season on the line. 1v2 against one of the best teams in all of the world. And Favs hits the crucial shots. That is what you call clutch. That is why we play. Let's take a look at that again.
Another question. Pops into mind as he lands a massive shot on the Kanata and back to back. That one is definitely in your FNCS top plays for week number 3. Now he's stuck with a huge decision. Do I go back into the zone? Do I try to get Scented back? Or do I continue a legendary run as a solo?
Right now, he just needs to focus on not taking damage. It's Mira behind him, another team below. He's done all the good work up to this point. For it to slip away now would be so heartbreaking. He's gonna go back in the zone. He's gonna look to try and pick up Scented, but so many people looking at him. Oh, dearie me. A couple headshots and it would have been wraps for his season. But again, staying alive here and looking to try and get his teammate up. The reboot will come through. This is gonna be such a tough game for them to actually make it happen.
28 points. They still need to overcome a 28-point deficit if they're looking to keep the miracle run alive. Zepicwell loses Reet. They have 7 eliminations as a duo, so they definitely have left their mark here in the lobby at the final game. Even looks like Epicwell is going to continue on as a solo, trying to go to the outskirts. Even looks like he's hunting for revenge on a team over on this side. His zone's pushing in. He hears them healing. These are his pieces that are under his control. He's going to pop through, lands a cheeky shot on the Jeff, but not much damage really to follow up on. That's why he's backtracking in his steps, trying to think outside of the box. Kinetic Blade giving up the position that his opponents have now just disengaged. So that's going to give Epicwell some room to work with.
I love just how different the stakes are all across the board. Epicwell just there in zone, like chilling, like, hey, yeah, let's have some fun. FNCS finals are on our way. On the other side of the lobby, Favs and Scented, sweating, handshaking, nervous. Every single movement matters. Oh my goodness, I'm really, really hoping they can hold on. Scented just getting into zone, and he's got himself a loadout as well. And he's got himself some materials. These guys are actually, they're not even looking bad, considering what's happened to them, Jacob. They are not looking bad at all. The zone pool is a zone that they'll be able to get to with some ease as well. Like, this is not bad at all.
Honestly, if you just tuned in right now and you're watching, you would never have guessed the situation they were just put in. And if you just tuned in, let me tell you, where have you guys been? This is game number 6 of the FNCS Week 3 Finals. And there was so much on the line, so much excitement here coming down to the wire for Baila Naifa. They have already secured their spot, what they were fighting for going into the day. Top 17 was the name of the game. They've definitely overperformed above that standard. So no matter what happens here, he can definitely hold his head high above the clouds.
Yeah, these guys have shown up and showed out. They started off the day so hot, and even if they did cool off a bit towards the end, I'm sure we will get a nice showing from Baila just to wrap things up for us. Bolts and Forik, another one of those teams that coming into today, we had an understanding of what the expectations were for them, and they haven't quite been able to match up to it throughout the day, but in this final game, looking to make everything count.
Going into the game, they at least needed 30 points. That has definitely opened up just a little bit, but that's no worries for anybody at all. We're only into our top 30 teams, so all the placement points still left on the board. Baila doesn't get spotted out. He's a solo over on the other side. Evo and Salco get distracted by a couple other teams whizzing right past him with that kinetic blade. As he peeks through the cone, sees everybody boxed up on this edge, trying to account for as many duos as possible. So now when the zone pulls, they know exactly what that game plan is going to be.
Yeah, that zone pull is not bad for them at all. Epic Well finally does go down, and it's Scare that takes him out before Scare gets chucked down to just a sliver of HP. Scented and Favs, the dream, it's alive. 129 above, now down to 80. They need to start dealing damage, and relatively fast. They have materials, they have decent enough loot. It's just about dealing that damage. Scented is definitely looking. Fabs has his eyes on Cold and Acorn just across. I know there's a team in there. But again, as we've seen in some of these lobbies, it's so hard to try to get tags on people. Sometimes you just have to jump in.
We saw 106, Scented and Fabs. They still need to make it to 134 points. Placement points have not set in just yet. So that's just a little reminder, because things will begin to move quick as we do get to the next couple of zones. So you know what threshold they need to at least get near if they have any hope here in this game. Diminish and Sid, 79 above the Storm Surge threshold. Not much, but at least is able to find them some flexibility so they can hunt around, figure out if they're going to make the rotation, go for some damage. They want to make sure they find that sweet spot in zone first, causing some havoc with the ODM gear. They're getting some damage when it comes to Storm Surge that they can at least confidently rotate from one zone to the next, but they end up in another team's box. They're trying to shoot their way out. Sid gets under pressure. Another shot from the other side. Aminish is dropped and left by himself, but he even takes a massive shot from the side. That was Baila as a solo, taking up huge points and a huge amount of loot that he just scavenged up.
Yeah, he didn't see it coming at all. Sid got caught unawares, and the Minish gets punished for it now. That duo is out. But Baila, as a solo, still making things happen, still making plays. Back to the form of some of the previous games, and scouting out now which path to the next zone will be more ideal. He has an idea, and he has the timing now. Favs and Scented, they're going to make their timing. Trying to stay underneath that height team and landing towards his front side. Elevated layers, they want to stay away from all the congestion down beneath them.
Mavs bringing his elimination total to 4 overall. Even late into the game, making some cheeky plays, hunting them down even after he found that first one. Under pressure from the Stacky, and he knows exactly how to disengage. It's the perfect placement for Scented and Favs as they're just trying to go ahead and scrape their way through. Pressure from the high ground. They see threats into the distance as well as they're just trying to eye and think about all the options they have for this next rotation.
And it's Keyboard and Poyo above them, applying that pressure. They saw the metal they were building in, and they said, we got to deal with that team. They have way too many maps for our liking. But Scented and Fabs, they just have to stay cold. They just have to stay alive.
Wow.
for the rest of the lobby. It's so hard to stay alive when Poyo's hitting shots like that. Oh my goodness. It's like an aim trainer for him right now. It's a practice session. It's a practice run. Byler sent back to the lobby. You cannot give Poyo that kind of room.
Now I know why Booga at the start of the season was thinking about playing with somebody like that. May not be the biggest name in the scene, but now you know why. He's making a threat to be so, as Bolt and Thoric still need to hold on to their position here. More points for them to grab if they're looking to skip on past Surge Week and book their ticket directly to Grand Finals. Cold and Acorn find Chris out of position. He's sent back to the lobby. So many teams' luck has now come to an end as we get into our top 15s.
It's getting so intense. Centered, tarping through these mid-ground layers. Tell me how many times you've seen this happen. You've almost got to think at what point is he going to start looking to drop to low. That's where he's always been the most comfortable. The materials are running low. It's going to be just left of wood soon, and so that time might be coming at some point. Keeping an eye on all the players on these different layers. That could be a problem for them, and they're finding refreshes. It's Fabs, he's looking, hunting, fishing for more materials. He's already put in so much damage, so many bigger limbs in this game, and he's looking for even more now. You can see them lurking here in the backside, waiting. They know there's going to be players here they can capitalize on.
Zit too. Both players on the right side of your screen. Fabs, Scented, looking for a top 12. Bolts and Thor looking for a top 32. Definitely still have more points on the board, and their job is not done as Miro gets taken down. Poyo and Keyboard still putting pressure down from above. Cooper is the target in their line of sight right now that's taking a lot of that pressure. Aviv trying to kinetic blade from the backside of zone. He only has a sliver of HP to work with, but Hope is still alive.
Zone number 12, the final zone of the qualifiers of NA. And you can see Fabs is putting on a show for us. Another limb. How many more is he going to get? He's following Scented like he's followed no other. He's staying right by his side and making sure that shotgun is out and ready to deal damage where necessary. These guys aren't leaving anything up for chance right now. Drop down now. Scented falls. It's up to Fab. Can he stay alive? No. Just falls in fourth place. Forric and Bolso, they're still alive. We know they needed a big game, and a big game's what they're going to get. Forric going crazy, going nuts, but can't quite pick that one up. He will fall, and it's Acorn and Cold. Once again, how many times will they stay alive here?
And it's basically a 2v1 situation. Keyboard is down. It's all up to Poyo. He has no heals, so he must fight, and he must go against the previous NA champions, and he gets taken down. No chance being given by Acorn and Cold as they seal the deal in the final game of the day.
Acorn and Cold finishing things off like they intend to finish off this major. Finishing things off like they finished off last major as the winners. You've got to think that game will be enough to push them into first place on the day. But Jacob, we know how great these guys are. We know these guys are one of the best teams in all of the land right now. The question will be, did Bolts and Forric do enough? Did Scented and Fabs do enough? Did these guys solidify their spot into the next rounds of the competition? Big props to Acorn and Cold. We can sing their praises all day long. But my eyes are on the dreams that almost came alive, it felt, in that game.
Huge fan of these players fighting for their lives, particularly Bolts and Thoric. He said it himself. They know they have their struggles, but they know exactly what they need to do to turn it around. And boy, was that last game a quick 180 from the previous 5.
Look, it has been a very, very fun qualifiers. Casting these games alongside you, Jacob, always a blast. But look, I got my fingers crossed. Did the boys do it? We're going to send it back to Zeke and the analysts to break that one down.
As always, huge shout out to 11-2K and Jacob PR for casting those 6 games here on NA. I know there are many questions, and we'll get to those. First, a huge congratulations. Acorn and Cold, once again, already qualified to the Global Championships coming later this year. But they'll just say, why don't we just get a casual back-to-back Victor Royale like 3? Why not, SPG?
They're just showing us what they're capable of. Like, straight up, they went into this week and probably could have just put it in park and chilled, and they decided, no, this is our region. Anyone else that thinks otherwise, you now know we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, these guys is absolutely crazy. I mean, they're showing the rest of the lobby how it's done. Not only have they qualified to Grand Finals, right? They're already qualified to the Global Championships later on this year. So they don't even have to do well here. They don't have to, but they're just showing that they can. And oh boy, are they doing it in such a great fashion.
Absolutely disgusting play. And, you know, Pollo almost pulled out, but unfortunately, Acorn was just ready for it. I love the kind of attempt. Hey, I have ODM gear. Why not just send it, right? Who knows? Unfortunately, did not go his way. But again, Acorn and Cold. This is a duo to be feared. All right, especially not only grand finals, but beyond. Of course, as all duos have, there's still work to be done, right? There's still refining that has to be done. But that aside, they will jump into the #1 spot. Now, remember, there's a couple names. Let's just start here at the bottom.
Yeah.
Scented and Favs jumping up the 9 placements they needed. Now, they are in that top 10. But we won't know if that was enough. Because remember, they are fighting to just get into Surge Week. They had to make that top 10 if they wanted to keep the run alive, SBG.
I don't know. Like, I'm just sitting here. They did so much in that last game, and you have to be thinking, like, just a couple more points, one more elim earlier, and that might be the difference. Hopefully 10th place is enough to put them in. This would be a miracle, Qual. I mean, to do this in 1 week, knowing with all the pressure that you have to get it done, I have no words.
1 week, wonders. We might be calling this team because all they needed was that top 10, maybe that top 12 was what we predicted earlier on, but things shifted. I saw them in 4th going down there at the end. I thought, yep, that's it. Done. They can put their feet up, have a cup of tea, maybe enjoy their night. But no, they're in 10th. What's going on? A lot of the other teams around them, they also did well. So, of course, pushing them a little bit lower down. It's going to be intense to see how they do. I mean, they did as much as they could in that last game. Favs in particular doing such a great job, fragging out, doing all that he could, just showing why Center picked him up for this week 3. And I really hope for them that they can do it because, oh boy, they deserve it after today.
I think were you just go ahead?
Yeah, well, it's just really cool to see because typically Favs leads a duo when he played with Snacky back in the day.
Yeah.
So to see both of them kind of just take over at certain times, they clearly showed a well-executed endgame, and I wish it happened 1 game sooner because I don't know if 10th is going to be enough.
I think the turn for them was that Aegis and Kanata fight, right? Finding the 1v2 situation there to keep that dream alive, go back into Storm, get the reboot off. Will 10th be enough? We'll find out in a little bit when we take a final look at that series point leaderboard. Knifer and Byla here in 4th place. Another duo that had to perform well. Remember, they're in Surge Week, but they wanted to bypass that. They wanted to just secure that grand final spot. Did they do it?
Yeah, I think 4th place is more than enough. I believe they needed like a top 3rd or so in order to get past Surge Week straight to finals. I mean, shout out to these guys as well. I know we were focusing last game on Scented and Favs, but these guys came in from the start, came in ready, and just clearly dominated. 4th place in this lobby. Really well done.
Yeah, they've been chipping away at those placements all day, of course, picking up that victory royale as well early on. So they came out flying and they kept it up. Of course, being contested off Swarm, we had a few questions to ask of them. Could they do it? Could they keep up that consistency? Even one of the games, I believe, going down. I know Byla went down to 4 damage, Knifer went down. And that was where a few things started to get a little bit dicey, but they had all the answers to those questions and they did a great job. Leading a top 25 today, I think it was at the end. So 4th should be plenty.
Absolutely. Another duo. Remember, we were talking about them. We interviewed Thoric at the beginning of the show, paired up with Bolts. They did miss games 1 and 2. And from that, they had to just do the impossible in 4 games. The question for me will be, did they make it? Was it enough?
I hope so. I hope so. I think it is enough. I was looking at them, their placement towards the beginning of this game. It was around the top 30, which was just outside of what they needed, I believe. Going down here, top 5. So it was like, it's a difficult one for this duo. They should have had enough, though, SBG. I'm hopeful.
Should is a big word, man. I mean, you want to see the previous winners back in finals, and hopefully they did do enough. I would expect them based on that last game. But again, just like waiting till the last moment to make it happen. Come on. You're giving me all this stress for no reason. I need to relax.
Yeah. Now you know how I feel. That's how I feel. I feel the stress of these players as well. It is that time, though. So we'll take a look at our series point leaderboard. Don't forget, top 40, they go straight to grand finals. Top 90 will then go to Surge Week. We take a look here at the top, Bugha and Threats. We kind of knew this kind of coming into today. We knew they were kind of sitting in #1 spot, and they're still chilling. Right now, I mean, it's looking fine, right? Pollo and Keyboard as well, jumping up. I think overall, the first initial top 10, I kind of feel like we're cemented, right, Minnie?
Yeah, they're in grand finals, done and dusted. They can start looking at their drop spots, start planning strategies, hitting the VODs. Of course, now they have that extra week over the rest of the teams that are competing in Surge Week to prepare, so hopefully they use it wisely.
Yeah, I mean, most of these teams had to feel really good going in. And
oh, here's the...
Okay.
Here it is.
Knifer, Byla, yes.
Yes, they're in.
Nix, yes. Oh, my God. So, all right. This means teams fell out, too, because there was teams already up above them. So a couple of teams that pushed themselves up, now a couple of people fell out. So, oh, man, I'm not ready for this.
Nick
is going to honor in as well. Yeah, Nick, of course, just squeezing in there. 990 points does appear to be the threshold as of right now. As we scroll on to have a look at our top 50 now. And Thoric and Bolts, 40 seconds, Zeke.
That means they are going to go to Surge Week, which is still fine, right, Minnie? It's fine. It's going to be a more difficult hill to climb. They did not make that auto-qual straight to grand finals, but we saw them perform, especially after missing those initial 2 games. I feel like these guys could pull out a top 5 SPG.
Yeah, I mean, you give them one more game, they get a couple more placements.
Yeah.
They're right where they need to be. So unfortunate for them. Things happen, though. Adversity. Can you overcome it? Now they get to prove whether or not they can next week.
I'm not worried. I think this is a duo that can play consistently. We saw that with their final 4 games today. They have it in their locker to play consistently. I don't think they'll get a victory royale when it does come to the Surge Week, obviously depending on certain circumstances. I think if they're going to do it, they'll do it on consistency.
Absolutely. And of course, Aegis and Kanata, I know you guys had questions. Yes, remember they made it in that 35th placement as well. So a lot of high-profile names here in NA that we kind of would have expected to perform well. They did, right? And now we kind of have to start thinking about Surge Week, duels. You know, it's a tough spot. Victory out or coming top 5. We're only looking for 10 spots, or rather 5. You know what I'm saying. But
the math again.
It's math. It gets me every time.
He tries.
But once again, how are you guys kind of feeling going into Surge Week? It's going to be a pretty big shift.
Yeah. You have 2 play styles. You either play consistently and try and get through that, or you go for the dub. And I don't know what I would choose. I feel like I would play consistent, and then if you get the opportunity, let's say 10th zone, you're feeling set up, then play for the win. But I can't make that decision.
I feel like you just have to be consistent or going for a win. You can't just like kind of hover in no man's land in between. I feel like you have to outline that at the beginning, saying, okay, we have to try and play for wins this tournament. We're going to try and make those risky plays, because you kind of can't go half in, half out, because you could end up with no wins and not enough consistency to make it into the top 5. So you have to be consistent, and we're seeing, of course, our series points against Centered, of course, make it into the top 40. Into there, so it's not Centered, it's Senito.
Close.
I was gonna say, hang on a sec, that's not right. I was like, Centered? That's not right.
Well, speaking of things that are right, guess what? Nick and, of course, Young Squaddle making in that 40th place, just that, hitting that line. We go to grand finals, but guess what? Squaddle is actually standing by. We will get a chance to talk to him. Squaddle, first off, how's it going, my man?
It's going good. What about you?
Oh, man, we're having a great time. We just watched some amazing games. First off, congrats, you made it right there. Those final few moments, placements. How does it feel to know you don't have to go to Surge Week? You're going straight to grand finals.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very good. We didn't put as much effort as this season, but like now it's time to grind, and we're really happy to call for grand finals. And yeah, I'm Demon X, by the way, but yeah, I'm really happy about calling for grands, and I have to play it, which is really stressful, but yeah.
All right, you guys got the last spot. Walk me through how this week went, because you had multiple games that went well, and then you fell early. Like, what was it like for you guys throughout today?
Yeah, it went pretty well, but like at the same time pretty bad, because like second game I didn't get in. It was all right. Third game I full choked, which is my fault. But like last game I had all the pressure to make all the points we needed to win. But yeah.
Of course, now you guys are in grand finals. Talk to me about what the preparation is going to be like now. Of course, you have 2 weeks until the big day and the big 2-day weekend. How do you prepare for such a big event?
Yeah, I mean, we'll grind every day. We'll prepare. We'll play Zone Wars. We'll play everything. We'll play scrims, every scrims possible. Thanks to Manu for hosting all those scrims. I love you. We'll play everything. And yeah, we'll just make sure to be ready for grand finals and this season to play really good.
Yeah, and for you guys, not only are you thinking about grand finals, you guys are also thinking about global championships. For you, what would that mean to be able to kind of hit that stage?
That would be awesome. Like, I think anybody playing Fortnite will love to hit that stage. I mean, it's the goal for the it's the goal playing Fortnite, right? So yeah, it will mean the world for me, and I hope I can reach that thing this season or next one. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Hey, where can the fans out there find you?
You can find me on Twitter at NixFN. That's it. Yeah.
There you go, Nix. Congratulations again. We can't wait to see you in grand finals. And of course, congratulations once again.
Thank you.
There you go. Now, before we do say goodbye, let's take a look at our broadcast schedule. When are we back? I know we're getting that time to say goodbye, but next week, Surge Week. It's going to be wild. Remember, a Victory Royale will auto-qualify you in your duo or coming in top 5. We have a couple more spots to fill out for grand finals. May 13th, May 14th, not only for NA, but also for Europe. So you don't want to miss out any of that crazy Fortnite action. We have to do one more thing before we say goodbye. That is, of course, hang out with Jacob PR 112K. Get our kind of closing thoughts on the day. Jacob, I had a great time.
I had a fantastic time. Anytime I get to scream my life away for 6 straight games, you can sign me up for that one.
Personally, I enjoyed the games. I loved the interview from our boy Squaddle. But my brother, please change your name back to Nix. I was like, Squaddle, and he was like, follow me on Twitter at Nix, brother. Change your name back to Nix.
Or change the Twitter to Squaddle.
Maybe. One of the two. But either way, now, on a serious note, it was really fun to see all those teams battle it away, right? I think the big thing is now, if you are one of those teams that secured your spot in grand finals, take the week off, hit the VODs. You need to hit the VODs. When you have the likes of Acorn and Cold playing the way they are, you should be studying them, studying the likes of Peterbot, Quanti, Booger, and Frets were doing really well at times today as well. There's a lot of teams to watch out for.
Yeah, I think this lobby just sort of showed, you know, the teams that are just squeezing in through Surge Week and even grand finals, it gives you a little taster as to what it's like to play against these top tier teams like Booger and Frets, Acorn and Cold. And we saw it today, SBG. They were putting on such a show.
Everyone needs to step up to Acorn and Cold. To me, by none, they are the best team in this region, and until somebody else proves that, they're going to continue to be the kings.
There you go. Well, that is pretty much it here from the Fortnite-ness that is us. It sucks that we're going to take a week off, but again, Surge Week, you don't want to miss out on that, of course. Thanks for hanging out with us, SBG, our special guest for the first 3 weeks. Next week is a big moment for not only us, but for even new faces coming in. But you'll learn about that in the next week. As always, we hope you guys have a fantastic week. We love you. Keep yourself safe. And we'll see you on that battle bus.